Some people listen to themselves rather than listen to what others say. These people don't come along very often. But when they do, they remind us that once you set out on a path, even though critics may doubt you, it's okay to believe that there is no can't, won't, or impossible. They remind us that it's okay to believe impossible is nothing.
Look at you.
Every day of your life, you move through systems of power that other people made. Do you sense them? Do you understand power? Do you realize why it matters? Power is something we're often uncomfortable talking about. That's especially true in civic life, how we live together in community. In a democracy, power is supposed to reside with the people, period. Any further talk about power, and who really has it, seems a little dirty, maybe even evil. But power is no more inherently good or evil than fire, or physics. It just is. It governs how any form of government works. It determines who gets to determine the rules of the game. So learning how power operates is key to being effective, being taken seriously, and not being taken advantage of. In this lesson, we'll look at where power comes from, how it's exercised, and what you can do to become more powerful in public life. Let's start with a basic definition. Power is the ability to make others do what you would have them do. Of course, this plays out in all arenas of life, from family to the workplace to our relationships. Our focus is on the civic arena, where power means getting a community to make the choices and to take the actions that you want. There are 6 main sources of civic power. First, there's physical force and a capacity for violence. Control of the means of force, whether in the police or a militia, is power at its most primal. A second core source of power is wealth. Money creates the ability to buy results and to buy almost any other kind of power. The third form of power is state action, government. This is the use of law and bureaucracy to compel people to do or not do certain things. In a democracy, for example, we the people theoretically give government its power through elections. In a dictatorship, state power emerges from the threat of force, not the consent of the governed. The fourth type of power is social norms, or what other people think is okay. Norms don't have the centralized machinery of government. They operate in a softer way, peer-to-peer. But they can certainly make people change behavior and even change laws. Think about how norms around marriage equality today are evolving. The fifth form of power is ideas. An idea, individual liberty, say, or racial equality, can generate boundless amounts of power if it motivates enough people to change their thinking and actions. And so the sixth source of power is numbers, lots of humans. A vocal mass of people creates power by expressing collective intensity of interest and by asserting legitimacy. Think of the Arab Spring or the rise of the Tea Party. Crowds count. These are the 6 main sources of power, what power is. So now, let's think about how power operates. There are 3 laws of power worth examining. Law number 1, power is never static. It's always either accumulating or decaying in the civic arena. So if you aren't taking action, you're being acted upon. Law number 2, power is like water. It flows like a current through everyday life. Politics is the work of harnessing that flow in a direction you prefer. Policymaking is an effort to freeze and perpetuate a particular flow of power. Policy is power frozen. Law number 3, power compounds. Power begets more power, and so does powerlessness. The only thing that keeps law number 3 from leading to a situation where only one person has all the power is how we apply laws 1 and 2. What rules do we set up so that a few people don't accumulate too much power, and so they can't enshrine their privilege in policy. That's the question of democracy, and you can see each of these laws at work in any news story. Low-wage workers organize to get higher pay. Oil companies push to get a big pipeline approved. Gay and lesbian couples seek the legal right to marry. Urban parents demand school vouchers. You may support these efforts or not. Whether you get what you want depends on how adept you are with power. Which brings us finally to what you can do to become more powerful in public life. Here, it's useful to think in terms of literacy. Your challenge is to learn how to read power and write power. To read power means to pay attention to as many texts of power as you can. I don't mean books only. I mean seeing society as a set of texts. Don't like how things are in your campus or city or country? Map out who has what kind of power, arrayed in what systems. Understand why it turned out this way, who's made it so, and who wants to keep it so. Study the strategies others in such situations used. Frontal attack or indirection. Coalitions or charismatic authority. Read so you may write. To write power requires first that you believe you have the right to write, to be an author of change. You do. As with any kind of writing, you learn to express yourself, speak up in a voice that's authentic, organize your ideas, then organize other people, practice consensus building, practice conflict. As with writing, it's all about practice. Every day you have a chance to practice, in your neighborhood and beyond. Set objectives, then bigger ones. Watch the patterns, see what works. Adapt, repeat. This is citizenship. In this short lesson, we've explored where civic power comes from, how it works, and what you can do to exercise it. One big question remaining is the why of power. Do you want power to benefit everyone, or only you? Are your purposes pro-social or anti-social? This question isn't about strategy, it's about character. And that's another set of lessons. But remember this: power plus character equals a great citizen, and you have the power to be one.
He looks determined without being ruthless. Something heroic in his manner. There's a courage about him. Doesn't look like a killer. Comes across so calm. Acts like he has a dream. Full of passion.
You don't trust me, huh?
Well, you know why.
I do. We're not supposed to trust anyone in our profession anyway.
What's up, young world? It's your boy Great Scott, aka N Sabanor, Arabic for the morning light. How you doing? This is the Digital Machiavelli, the 5 laws of wealth and power. My goal within all of this is to help you guys understand the unwritten rules of life. Everything I speak is all opinion, not fact. But I dare you to challenge my opinion with the facts, and more importantly, challenge your own opinion with better facts. Let me tell you up front that I am an iconoclast. An iconoclast is defined as a breaker or destroyer of images, one who attacks cherished beliefs and traditional institutions as being based on error or superstition. My main goal with this book is to help you guys provoke thought, help you all become farmers and not hunters, and to also make you intelligent. This book, The Digital Machiavelli, is based on just the contradictions that this world, the craziness that the world has to offer. I think growing up, we're all lied to. We're all taught that, if you follow the rules to success, you follow the rules to the Bible, or if you follow the rules to school and everything, you will go in the right light and everything will work out for you. But, a question that was asked to me one time, and I'll ask you, is how has treating people the way you like to be treated gotten you? Once again, how has treating people the way you like to be treated gotten you? For me, it's gotten me nowhere. If anything, the more kind I was, the more I was cheated on by my girlfriends, the more certain friends stole from me, physically robbed me, or financially probably robbed me. This world is very Machiavellian. And the goal with this is to show you human nature biology, chemistry of our universe, more so than my opinion, because I think we're all born with an angel on one side and a devil on the other. And I don't think we can control certain facts about who we are as a human species. You can't control what you like to eat. You can't control what makes you horny, and you can't control what makes you laugh and make you cry. There's just certain things that we can't control. And within that is how we develop this Machiavellian intelligence. Now, what is Machiavellian intelligence?
Machiavellian intelligence, also known as political intelligence or social intelligence, is the capacity of an entity to be in a successful political engagement with social groups. The first introduction of this concept to primatology came from Franz de Waal's book, Chimpanzee Politics, which was published in 1982, which described social maneuvering while explicitly quoting Machiavelli. Machiavellian intelligence can also refer to doing whatever it takes to get to the top, which does require the art of being cunning. This can go for all events, from high school to trying to become a CEO in a company. The term refers to Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince, which was published in 1513, and to the hypothesis that the techniques which lead to a certain kind of political success within large social groups are also applicable within smaller groups, including family units. The term everyday politics was later introduced to refer to these various methods. These arguments are based on research by primatologists such as Nicholas Humphrey. Machiavellian intelligence may be demonstrated by behaviors including blaming and forgiveness, lying and truth-telling, making and breaking alliances, making and breaking promises, making and breaking rules, misleading, and misdirection. There is a link in the low bar to a Machiavellian intelligence test. This survey itself measures only one thing: whether you subscribe to the ideas of a 16th century Italian political philosopher. But experiments have shown that reactions to Machiavelli act as a kind of litmus test, delineating differences in temperament that can be confirmed with more traditional personality inventories. A high Machiavellian constitutes a distinct type: charming, confident, and glib, but also arrogant, calculating, and cynical, prone to manipulate and exploit.
So what I want to show you is that there's two types of people in this world. People that are humble out of respect and people that are humble out of fear. Now, people that are humble out of respect, they don't care what position somebody has in life. You could be homeless, you could be handicapped, you could be fat, pretty. They treat you with the utmost respect, no matter who you are, because they're just humble out of respect. Somebody like Jameson Bennett, right? Or then you got people that are humble out of fear. Now, people that are humble out of fear, those are people that treat you accordingly based on the position you have in life, based on how big your titties and ass is, based on if you got a beard and tattoos, or if you got a teardrop on your eye, I'm probably gonna be more scared of you. I feel like this: if you met Suge Knight versus if you met Russell Simmons, you should treat both of them the same way. We've all heard of Suge Knight's reputation. It sounds more violent and stronger, but the fact is, he's a human being, no different from Russell Simmons, no different from a homeless person dying, no different from Amy Winehouse after a heartbreak. Can you believe she died off of a heartbreak? She was in love, and sometimes love does that to you. But does that mean that she didn't need help? She needed help. So whether it's the children in Syria and Iraq getting burnt by ISIS, a kid in Chicago that's gangbanging and needs some help, it could be a wealthy kid who don't know the appreciation and value they have because they're born on wealth, living on Park Ave or Beverly Hills. We all need help to some degree. More importantly, we all need to treat everybody with respect. Show them respect no matter what position they are in. Chapter 1. The dangers of a good example.
I love hearing Ethan talk about Hollywood culture, because I think that she always just gives some really good introspective opinions on it. And I saw an interview where you did, and you were talking about Jennifer Lawrence, and you started off by saying how sometimes Hollywood, and correct me if I'm wrong if I'm not paraphrasing accurately, but how Hollywood culture sometimes will glorify someone too early, but then it stunts your work ethic. And the example of Jennifer Lawrence, because she won an Oscar at an infant stage in her career, and then now she's on Forbes for like one of the most bankable thespians out there. So what did you mean by all of that? Because I know you only had a small period of time.
Well, what I mean is that it puts a lot of pressure on a young person to be concerned with things that a young person probably shouldn't be concerned with. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a weird thing, like we're talking about the Oscars and then all. If you went back and look at like the history of the Oscars and you looked at how many of the nominees were British. Yeah. Right. This is our country. England's a tiny little country. Okay. And yet I'd say there's a huge percentage of the acting prizes go to these British people, right? Why? Well, because they're great actors. And why are they great actors? Because they have a culture of training their young people, right? And like when Winona Ryder and I did Reality Bites, nobody's asking us to do little parts in plays, learning Shakespeare's canon. See, the advantage of doing a little part in a play is not just playing that little part, but it's learning humility. It's watching older actors who have had a life, who've played those parts, and watch, they have a culture that respects something besides your popularity. You look at Judi Dench or Vanessa Redgrave or Ian McKellen or Ben Kingsley, or the list goes on and on. Ralph Fiennes with Daniel Day-Lewis. It's a tiny little country is producing all these great actors, because it has a culture of respect for the profession. Yeah. And what happens to somebody like Jennifer Lawrence is this is a dynamite young actress. All right. But if she concentrates on being like Forbes magazine Woman of the Year for the next 10 years, she won't be a great actress anymore. It takes your mind off of what got you there. The talent, right? And you see this all the time. Athletes and actors and musicians probably are the only people who ever like make a lot of money without being good at money. Most people who make a ton of bank, right? It's because they know how to play a dollar, right? But actors and athletes, all of a sudden, we don't know anything about money. And all of a sudden, you're in Hunger Games and people are pouring money at you. And this money makes a lot of noise in your life. There's a lot of people come...
Yeah, but you could hire people for that, though, right? Like accountants and
but look, planners. Talk to Willie Nelson and all those people about the people that, talk to Wesley Snipes about hiring people to watch your money.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean. We're not, we got our head in the clouds and, and so you can end up getting screwed in a lot of different ways and making an idiot out of yourself. But most importantly, you're not focusing on what got you there and developing, success always makes people just stay like that. Whereas the truth is, if you're going to keep growing in your life, you got to risk falling on your ass. And the people who are making money off you don't want you to fall on your ass.
They want you to stay like that. Stay like that.
So what I think Jen Lawrence is a great young actress. But, one of the things that made Meryl Streep is that she didn't, by the time she was winning awards, she was a grown woman. Yeah. And she'd had 15 years of figuring out who she was. And the reason why this is important to me is because I started really young, and a lot of the people that I started with either gave up or are dead. Wow. I did my first movie with River Phoenix. Yeah. OD'd on Sunset Boulevard. Wow. This it's not a game. They're real things that stop people. And getting to see this kid Eller Coltrane in Boyhood, I want to live in a society that helps this young man be the person that he can be. It doesn't matter. A lot is made of all the great rappers who have died too young. We live in a culture that celebrates a lot of things that aren't actually good for us, and it just sends everybody right down straight into this. You know what I'm saying?
That was a clip from Sway in the Morning. Shout out to Sway. That was an interview he did with Ethan Hawke. Now, Ethan Hawke was on Training Day. That's what most people might know him from if you're urban or whatever. And he made a valid point. We live in a culture that celebrates a lot of things that's not good for us. We have a mindset now within our culture that values entertainment over education. I think that's a problem. Example, like when Kim Kardashian came out with the naked pictures with Prada.
We all know the girls of the Kardashians as beautiful, exotic women. They are not not the brain of America. They're not going to be. Well, they're not philanthropists.
Philanthropists.
Yes, thank you. And all they have is their beautiful body. So why not work it, girls? They work it to death. We look at every picture of them, dressed and undressed, and that's what they've got. They have no talent other than their bodies, and that's it.
It's funny because ISIS burnt children alive, burnt the man from Jordan, buried people alive, and recorded all of it, and none of that got any discussion. But somebody puts up a dress for $1 million and on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook, and that's the biggest conversation. Now, to an extent, it is our fault and it is not our fault. But I do think that we are being programmed and brainwashed by this Machiavellian intelligence from the powers that be to focus on the ignorant shit and not the right shit. So it's like the Matrix when Morpheus was walking Neo and he got distracted by the red dress. That's just the world we live in. And if you don't believe me, then ask yourself this question, why is Howard Stern the highest paid person today? $90 million a year. He works 3 days a week. He's been on the air for how many years? You find me one show where he talks about anything with strong substance and something that helps push the culture forward. Now, Howard Stern is one of my idols because he does what the fuck he wants to do and he lives the life he wants to live. Please don't get it fucked up. I admire Howard Stern. But it makes no sense that he's the highest paid entertainer.
Chicken, can I help you?
Yeah, hi, how are you?
What do you need?
My brother's gonna come down today. He's gonna make a big order, okay?
What does he want?
Just take down his name because it's a very big order. Do you have a pen handy?
Go ahead.
His name is Maitur.
What is it, Maitur?
It's spelled M-I-T-U-R, and his last name is B-I-N-E-S-D-E-R-T-Y.
My turban is dirty?
Your turban is dirty?
You motherfucker. Chicken, can I help you?
Hello?
Yes, what can I get for you?
Yeah, is your chicken fresh?
It's fresh. How many pieces do you need?
Is your buffalo wing sauce spicy?
Yes, it's spicy. What do you want?
Yeah, is your turban dirty?
Your mother is dirty, you piece of shit. Chicken, how can I help you?
Hello?
What do you need?
Is Mike there?
Mike who?
Mike Turban is dirty?
And we use that clip just to show you how disrespectful Americans can be to some people's culture. And Howard Stern is the proof of that. And by the way, look how much he makes. This is a new form of Machiavellian behavior in today's society. The powers that be stay in power by 3 forms of emotions that they use to control people: fear, stupidity, and insecurity. So even if you go back to the concept of slavery on how they reverse niggas to niggers, taking the word that used to empower us and now it degrades us.
Negus.
Negus. What is the language of origin?
Ethiopian to Amharic.
What is the definition?
A king. It's used as a title of the sovereign of Ethiopia. Negus.
Negus. Could you use it in a sentence?
The Negus ruled Ethiopia until the coup of 1974.
Negus. Could you repeat the definition?
A king. It's used as a title of the sovereign of Ethiopia. Negus.
Negus.
And would you say the word loudly for the judges?
Negus.
One more time?
Negus.
Negus.
Negus. Negus. N-E-G-U-S, Negus.
absolutely stunned, but he'll take it. Again, when in doubt, sound it out. Spell it just like it sounds, and it pays off every once in a while.
When in doubt, sound it out. I'll have to remember that.
That clip was a spelling bee of a little white boy asked to spell niggas, just to show you proof that even the dictionary acknowledges what that word really means. The purpose of talking about this word is just to show you how they used to enslave us through insecurity. So let's look at the concept of slavery. Why would white people put us in slavery? If you look at life, right? I had a talk with my friend Janae, and she and we was debating about this. She said if you look at white people back in the day, their needs were greater. If you're from Europe and Europe don't have much natural resources, where are you going to get your resources from? Then you come to a land in Africa, and these people don't know what they have because they have it. They were born in it. How the hell do they know? So you see that and you go, okay, how do I take advantage of people that are too proud of themselves?
Slavery is as old as civilization itself, although it's not as old as humanity thanks to our hunting and gathering foremothers. But the numbers involved in the Atlantic slave trade are truly staggering. From 1500 to 1880 CE, somewhere between 10 and 12 million African slaves were forcibly moved from Africa to the Americas, and about 15% of those people died during the journey, and those who didn't die became property, bought and sold like any commodity. Where Africans came from and went to changed over time, but in all, 48% of slaves went to the Caribbean and 41% to Brazil. Although few Americans recognize this, relatively few slaves were imported to the US, only about 5% of the total. It's also worth noting that by the time Europeans started importing Africans into the Americas, Europe had a long history of trading slaves. The first real European slave trade began after the Fourth Crusade in 1204, the crusade that you will remember as the crazy one. Italian merchants imported thousands of Armenian, Circassian, and Georgian slaves to Italy. Most of them were women who worked as household servants, but many worked processing sugar. And sugar is, of course, a crop that African slaves later cultivated in the Caribbean. None of the primary crops grown by slaves, sugar, tobacco, coffee, is necessary to sustain human life. So in a way, slavery is a very early byproduct of a consumer culture that revolves around the purchase of goods that bring us pleasure, but not sustenance. You are welcome to draw your own metaphorically resonant conclusions from this fact. One of the big misconceptions about slavery, at least when I was growing up, was that Europeans somehow captured Africans, put them in chains, stuck them on boats, and then took them to the Americas. The chains and ships bit is true, as is the America part, if you define America as America and not as America. But Africans were living in all kinds of conglomerations, from small villages to city-states to empires, and they were much too powerful for the Europeans to just conquer. And in fact, Europeans obtained African slaves by trading for them. Because trade is a two-way proposition, this meant that Africans were captured by other Africans and then traded to Europeans in exchange for goods, usually like metal tools or fine textiles or guns. And for those Africans, slaves were a form of property, and a very valuable one. In many places, slaves were one of the only sources of private wealth because land was usually owned by the state. And this gets to a really important point. If we're going to understand the tragedy of slavery, we need to understand the economics of it. We need to get inside what Mark Twain famously called a deformed conscience. We have to see slaves both as they were, as human beings, and as they were viewed as an economic commodity.
Kill their people, take them to another country, whatever knowledge, history they know of themselves, delete it, destroy it, burn all their older heads, take advantage of the women and the children, and raise them to be the slaves and the puppet masters you need to be. And for 450 years, they did this. That is just to show you the concept of insecurity. And it worked for 450 years. Now, if you look at insecurity today, and I'm just speaking on this to give you a better description, when a kid in the hood now wants to buy a Gucci belt, True Religions, Louis Vuitton, it's because he has no self-value. He needs those things to validate himself. And Europeans and Italians, and they've made it where if it ain't made by them, it ain't made by the best. But if a cow was made in America versus a cow born in Italy, isn't the leather still the same? They understood how to take the concept of minority, which they really are, and then say, no, you're the minority. Even though Asia is the first largest continent, Africa is the second, South America, North America are the third and fourth, and you can't even consider North America because Native Americans are from here, technically. Just something to make you look at within that Machiavellian nature. Now, even if we look at the evolution of money, even money was first founded on gold, which is created in Africa. What they did is, because their lands don't make gold, the Medici family and the Rothschild family came up with the concept of money.
Amschel Meyer Bauer inherited the business. He decided to change his name to Rothschild. Amschel soon learned that loaning money to governments and kings was more profitable than loaning to private individuals. Not only were the loans bigger, but they were secured by the nation's taxes. Mayer Rothschild had 5 sons. He trained them all in the skills of money creation, then sent them out to the major capitals of Europe to open branch offices of the family banking business. Rothschild soon grew unbelievably wealthy. By the mid-1800s, they dominated all European banking and were certainly the wealthiest family in the world. They financed Cecil Rhodes, making it possible for him to establish a monopoly over the diamond and gold fields of South Africa. In America, they financed the Harrimans and railroads, the Vanderbilts and railroads and the press, and Carnegie in the steel industry, among many others.
They developed the paper form of money we have today and the coin part of money we have today, and they created the banking system. That's why the Rothschild family is the second wealthiest family to ever live. But Mansa Musa, a black man, was the first wealthiest man to ever live. Period. And they'll never teach you that in the history books. The Medici and the Rothschild family are British and European families. I'm saying all this to say that I'm not attacking white people or European people, because at the end of the day, my mom was born in England. I'm not saying none of that. What I am saying is that the difference between whites and blacks, for the most part, at least from my eyes, is black people are way more creative, but white people are way more analytical. History proves it. They are able to play chess with this game of life and to see years from now, 100 years from now, whether they made the FBI, the IRS, all these little tactics they use to legally destroy people and hurt people and take advantage of people. This is their Machiavellian way of taking over our culture. Life is a game of chess and you got to play it well. It's like the pimp hoe mentality. They are trained like this.
They was taught to treat us like this. Mm-hmm. Being that I'm in the owners program, they're teaching you as an owner to run your business. So the illest thing my professor said was a lot of ill stuff, but he particularly said, make them feel like they own something and they'll work harder for you. I'm like, oh God. Like, that's what they do in the music industry. Give them a label deal. And then when you get the label deal, it becomes a we conversation, or I'm an owner, because, we want things so bad that we'd take anything just to have a title. Right. But when you do the ratios and you do the math, does that title even mean anything? You see what I'm saying? And I just got tired of the smoke and mirrors. I'm like, man, I want to be an owner for real. I want to be a part of IPOs for real. I want to, have veto rights. I want to have seats on the board, like do things for real, because, a lot of our industry, we got a lot of potential, but we not really exercising it. You see what I'm saying? So I just want to...
That's true if you make somebody feel like they own something, because sometimes you have a job and you're like, well, it ain't like it's my company. I don't care. I'm not getting nothing out of it. People really feel that way. And then you tell them, okay, well, you know what? Here's a label deal for you. And even though you're still probably in the same position you would have been in, you feel like I'm part of this.
So who really owns in hip hop? Like, did it make you look at different situations people in? Even with where y'all was at with Rough Riders, like who really is a boss?
I don't really know I don't know people's personal business. I know there's a lot of great leaders in the business, and we know who those guys are, but I don't know their contracts. Because like when it all comes down to those contracts and I felt Dre had a great deal. That's real ownership, that's real leadership, and that's why he cashed out the way that he cashed out.
With the Beats thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a smoke and mirrors. It's like he's really an owner in the company. So anything that goes down with that company, big or small, he's participating in that in a real financial way with real equity and ownership in that brand. Now, if he didn't, then it would have been crickets at this point. He would want to, he would have it would be nasty, right? But that's how you do business. That's how you do business. And a lot of these companies, they like to just give you little things and make you feel like you're a part of them, send you boxes of sneakers and all this stuff. Man, we own this thing. Stop letting them use our culture as a stepping stone to build empires, and we're not a part of it. We the ones that create this music. Like, where's our labels at? Where's where the things that we own for real own, like for real own. So I started getting a little frustrated with that, because we have so much potential, and everybody's putting in their time and everybody's putting in their work. But are we really getting our just due? And are we to blame for not getting our just due?
Right. You hear that? Make them feel like they own something and they will work even harder. One way they do this is through the American dream. That clip we just played was very important to my own life because I am 30 years old right now. I got success fairly young. Let me tell you something about the American dream. It is a big fucking lie. How do we know this? Let's start with owning a house. I felt like the biggest lesson I learned in 2014 is lie more and care less. I was talking to a friend of mine and she said, "Why are you saying lie more? That's wrong. That's not the right way to live." I said, "You're a banker. You guys lie all the time. What are you talking about? When I buy a house, you don't tell me or anybody that buys a house that, hey, you don't really own this house because you have to pay taxes on it every year. What you really want to buy is the land and they'll never sell you the land." She said, "Yes, we do lie about that. And the reason we lie about that is because if we told you about buying land, then we wouldn't have a job." And I thought that made so much sense. And she said, "There's a thing called an allodial title. Have you ever heard of it?" I said, "No."
The moment the idea is admitted into society that property is not as sacred as the law of God, and that there is not a force of law and public justice to protect it, anarchy and tyranny commence. The law of property is the most important law, period. Even a 2-year-old understands property. Mine, that's mine. They don't understand it well, but they do understand that owning property is important. And as we get older, somehow we lose sight of that fact. We need to be just a little bit more like a 2-year-old to go, that's mine. And we have to be willing to defend that property. Somebody jumps into your car and starts driving away, what do? Say, oh gosh, I better call the insurance company. Or do you chase after them and try to get your car back? It's your property. Now, most of you do not own half the things that you think that you own. There is a concept known as allodial title. Allodial title means that you own it. I mean, the way that we think of when we say that you own something. Allodial title is generally referred to when we talk about land. If you own the land in allodial title, then you genuinely own the land. How many people went to a real estate agent when they bought their house? Okay, when you go to a real estate agent, are you buying property or real estate? There is a difference. When you buy real estate, you purchase everything from the ground up. You own the house, you own the trees, but you do not own the earth that it sits on. Can you go out in your backyard and drill for oil? No. Why? Because there's an ordinance against it? If it's your property, can you do whatever you want with your property? And if I can't drill for oil in my backyard, then apparently I don't own the property. Do you pay property taxes? Why? Who are you paying property taxes to? If it's yours, why would you have to give somebody else money? And the truth of the matter is that you do not own the land. You own the house on top of the land, but you are renting the actual land. And unless you have allodial title to the land, it is not yours. Now, we will talk about allodial title when we get to the history of the United States. When we broke off with England, people in the American continent here, the people in the United States, were the first people allowed to own land in allodial title. Prior to that, everything was owned by the king. Now, there are 50 states in the United States. Only one currently still allows you to own land in allodial title. And you are all very, very lucky because that state is Texas. However, most people in Texas still do not own their land in allodial title. Learn how to own your land in allodial title is another class that I haven't written yet.
I lost my house because I didn't pay taxes one year. So that let me know who really owned the shit. And it wasn't me. The only thing you own is your name. Always remember that. And like I said in my last book that the Jewish man told me, the difference between the rich and the poor is the rich know the value in their name and the poor know the value in their work. How we also know that this allodial title is official. Let's look at New York City. If you didn't know, Madison Square Garden has to move within the next 10 years from Penn Station, from on top of Penn Station. Listen to this news clip, just so you know that there's proof of this.
Penn Station is one of the nation's biggest transportation hubs. The Midtown Manhattan train station services over 500,000 commuters every day. In 1963, Penn Station was moved entirely underground. The original head house was demolished to make room for the Madison Square Garden complex. The low-ceiling station is considered by many to be the most congested and confusing in the nation, and in desperate need of modernization and a facelift. But nothing can be done to renovate Penn Station, while Madison Square Garden, which is the home to the Knicks basketball and Rangers hockey teams, sits on top. In May of last year, the New York City Council voted 47-1 to extend the garden's special operating permit for only 10 years, not in perpetuity as the owners of the garden had requested. City Council Speaker Christine Quinn described the vote as the first step in finding a new home for Madison Square Garden and building a new Penn Station that is as great as New York and suitable for the 21st century. The news has not sat well with many New York residents and fans.
Madison Square Garden has been an icon for the city for years. It's been moved from time to time. You look at the history of Madison Square Garden, from certain areas in New York to this area where it's at right now. And I know right now where it stands, it's a national icon, well, a community icon, and a city icon. And I really feel like it needs to stay right there where it's at.
Despite the recent vote by the Planning Commission, the unresolved relationship is far from fixed. This is only the latest chapter in a battle that has been waged for nearly half a century when the original Penn Station was torn down to make way for Madison Square Garden. The arena will stand for at least the next 10 years, and if viable plans for a new Madison Square Garden and a new Penn Station aren't approved by then, we may find ourselves in the same situation once again.
Now that's Madison Square motherfucking Garden, a legendary place of such that has to move because they do not own an allodial title on the land that they're on. Now, to go just a little further in that history, just to show you, I've been doing my research on this. New York Penn, Newark Penn in New Jersey and New York, they're inspired and named after a man called William Penn. He is a British man that came here in the 1600s. From what I understand, he's one of the first people to land out here, and he took Pennsylvania. And he said, this is my land, and I'm going to name it after myself. And these are my railroads. And his foundation started in the 1600s. He was already playing Monopoly with America early. So his family, from what I understand, sold it to another family, and they own the land that Madison Square Garden stands on. Now, the point of me speaking about whites and territory is because if you don't fight for the territory you want, the territory you don't want will take over. I said this in the last book. And at the end of the day, no man earns $1 million honestly. And in order to gain power and wealth in this Machiavellian world we live in, you have to keep people fearful, insecure, and stupid to some degree. I am not trying to be disrespectful. I'm saying that that's what it is. Because if somebody don't need you, then why are you in their life? To some degree. Not saying it all the time, just to some degree. Always remember, anger activates, sadness deactivates, and positivity is good, but people are not attracted to it because that means there's nothing to do if everything's all good. This is why women put men in the friend zone.
Thanks for listening. You're such an angel. Aw, you're such a good friend. Why can't more guys be like you? Aw, you're so cute. You're so sweet. Aw, I heart you. I love you. Aw, you got me flowers. You're so nice. You know the friend you were with the other day? Is he seeing anyone? Are you single? I know the perfect girl for you.
They need men that they could fix. It's very rare they take the clean, good guy. Because if he's perfect, what is there to do? So if you look at JFK to Larry Flynt, they both offended people. Larry Flynt created Hustler magazine, if you guys don't know. And Larry Flynt was shot. He's paralyzed right now because he was the first porno type situation that had interracial people having sex. Somebody shot him on the simple facts of that back in the 1960s. Then you got Howard Stern. He also flipped the script with anger activates, getting blowjobs on air, sucking titties, little stuff like that. So Eminem talking about gays in his first two albums, how he hates fags and shit like that. Killing his wife Kim. He made a song about beating her up and throwing her in the trunk, and Eminem had a very fruitful career in the first 2-3 albums about disengaged. He won't be able to pull that off today, though. But anyway, Bill O'Reilly.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Harmful entertainment. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. If you saw The Factor last night, you know that President Obama has launched a huge initiative to help children at risk, targeting young black men especially. Called My Brother's Keeper, it's a good initiative. But what is missing is the entertainment factor. There is no question that dubious music and movies are affecting unsupervised children of all colors. The hip-hop industry makes billions putting out stuff like this.
What's 50 grand to a like me? Can you please remind me? Stop all that early morning cartoon. This is that goon. Your whole afternoon. I'm a wolf.
Grab her all at the partition, please. I don't need you seeing Beyonce on her knees. Took 45 minutes to get all dressed up. We ain't even gonna make it to this club. Now my mascara running red, lipstick smudge. Oh, he's so he want to He popped on my buttons and he ripped my blouse. He monocolor whiskey all on my gown.
Now, if you can't see that unsupervised children might be harmed by that kind of stuff, then you are not a responsible person, period.
He's on our radar, at least as black people, because of what he has said continuously about hip-hop stars. You know, Ludacris, Common, whoever. He's so quick to degrade our culture to some degree, and that's why he's on our radar, because he activated us through anger. Always understand that sometimes insults is the mother of inventions. So if you look at the story of Lamborghini versus Ferrari, it's the same thing. Lamborghini met Ferrari and Enzo Ferrari, and when he met him, he told him how cool he was. The motherfucker dissed him and told him, stick to making tractor trailers, you're not on our level. Some shit like that. And that's when he said, I'm gonna make a car that's faster and better and more expensive than your shit. And he did. He created a Lamborghini. Tommy Hilfiger, he came out with an ad, his first ad ever. He came out with a healthy form of disrespect where he compared himself to Calvin Klein, Perry Ellis, and himself at the bottom. And he said the last name is the name you least know about. You should type in Tommy Hilfiger first ad on Google to see what I'm saying. And he built conversation through aggravating the big dogs, Calvin Klein and them, and making them go, well, who is he to compare himself to us? And then they started talking about him. And that built the curiosity to find out who Tommy Hilfiger was back in his very early days. Now, if you look at the concept of stupidity don't mean like being like dumb, retarded. But when I say stupidity, I mean like, let's look at iTunes versus ringtones. I don't know if you remember, we all used to buy ringtones back in the day. Remember when ringtones were like $2, $3? A full song on iTunes was $1. Well, it is $1 sometimes. Now it's $1.29 here and there. But does that make any fucking sense to you? We used to buy ringtones, a 6-second clip for $3 versus a full song for $1. That's stupid. But that's what the fuck America does to you sometimes. That's called Machiavellian intelligence, and people fell for it, including myself, because I was young, dumb, and full of cum. And I'm up here buying Soulja Boy. Yoo! Crank that Soulja Boy. Woo! Crank that Soulja Boy. Just to show you the concept of stupidity. Remember when Mike Vick went to prison for dogfighting? Remember that? He did 2 years for dogfighting. Meanwhile, Damien Hirst, the artist that has made the most money in art, kills animals all the time and puts them up for display. He kills sharks, cows, sheep. He cuts them in half and puts them in a plastic box and sells them for millions of dollars. Google Damien Hirst to see what I'm talking about. His whole art is based around death. But my whole point is, how come when a white person does it, it's art and he gets $40 million, damn near the minimum. But a black person has dogs fighting, not even killing them, prison for 2 years. We allow this dumb shit to happen. You could look at like lobsters, right? You buy a lobster, they put it in a steamer, they cook it, or McDonald's. Like even fucking McDonald's, they kill billions of animals every day. But when they make a profit from it, it's all right, because it's all white. And when your hair is nappy, they not happy. So, you know, I just want you to pay attention to the stupidity that we put up with and we allow. We live in a very contradicting society to some degree. But I do believe that you're going to have to contradict yourself to some degree to make shit happen in this world. It's just what it is. Example, didn't 50 Cent contradict himself with the Ja Rule situation? 50 Cent said Ja Rule, R&B nigga, and a soft-ass rapper, but then he did the exact same formula. And we bought it.
We only humans, girl, we make mistakes. To make it up, I do whatever it takes. I love you like a fat kid love cake. You know my style, I say anything to make you smile.
Girl, it's easy to love me now. Would you love me if I was down and out? Would you still have love for me, girl?
50 Cent basically said, yo, this pizza's whack, don't buy it. And he still sold you pizza. That's basically what 50 did. But, yeah. And another example on stupidity and contradictions, let's look at vitamin water. Vitamin water is a huge fucking lie. Talking about 50 Cent, because remember he made $100 million off vitamin water. Vitamin water is definitely based on stupidity and contradictions.
It's sold everywhere. It's a highly popular beverage marketed as something that's good for you. The label emphasizes vitamins and water. But as it turns out, after water, the most prominent ingredient in vitamin water is none other than fructose, a type of refined white sugar. And that makes the first two ingredients of vitamin water sugar and water, not vitamins and water. And if vitamins plus water equals all you need, then why is there so much sugar in vitamin water? The sugar content is probably a lot more than you'd suspect, too. While the label only claims 13 grams of sugar per serving, the Coca-Cola Company has cleverly defined one 20-ounce bottle of vitamin water to be 2.5 servings. This means if you drink the entire contents of the vitamin water bottle at one setting, you're actually getting 32.5 grams of sugar, not the 13 grams implied on the label. That's as much sugar as you'd find in many bottles of soda, which is what led Steve Gardner, the litigation attorney for the nonprofit Center for Science in the Public Interest, to declare vitamin water is non-carbonated soda, providing unnecessary added sugar and contributing to weight gain, obesity, diabetes, and other diseases. The Coca-Cola Company, however, has aggressively marketed vitamin water with the implied message that it can enhance and improve your health. But when challenged on that claim in the courtroom, Coca-Cola's lawyers made this astonishing statement, saying no consumer could reasonably be misled into thinking vitamin water was a healthy beverage. Vitamin water isn't really healthy, say Coca-Cola's lawyers. And if you think it is, perhaps thanks to all of Coca-Cola's misleading advertising that implies the beverage is healthy, then you are apparently an unreasonable person. Virtually every piece of marketing surrounding vitamin water implies that the beverage is good for your health. It's got vitamin A, proclaims the label for the Focus flavor of vitamin water, an important nutrient for your eyes as they focus on everything. But what Coca-Cola probably doesn't want you to focus on is that vitamin water is actually a sugar water beverage that contains tiny amounts of mostly synthetic vitamin chemicals, such as cyanocobalamin, the cheap chemical form of vitamin B12. What emerges from looking closely at vitamin water is that it's misleading on multiple levels. The name is misleading, the serving sizes are misleading, the advertising is misleading, and even the front label is misleading. The kiwi strawberry version of vitamin water, for example, contains neither kiwis nor strawberries. Vitamin water, it turns out, is a sugar-laden junk beverage that even its own manufacturer admits isn't really good for you. If you're looking for real vitamin water, buy a countertop juicing machine and several pounds of organic produce like celery, apples, cucumbers, pineapples, parsley, and pears. Juice all that and you'll produce the most vitamin-rich water available anywhere on the planet. Plus, that form of vitamin water is alive with enzymes and nutrients that fight cancer, prevent diabetes, halt heart disease, and enhance cognitive function, among other benefits. Of course, fresh plant juice can't be preserved and bottled by Coca-Cola or any other company because many of the best health properties are destroyed through pasteurization, and virtually everything sold in a bottle at the grocery store is pasteurized. That's why even Odwalla and Naked Juice products can't compare to the nutrient value of fresh fruit and vegetable juices made right in your own kitchen. So if you want a beverage that's really good for you, make your own juice at home. Don't make the mistake of believing the Coca-Cola propaganda that implies vitamin water is a healthy beverage. The company's own attorneys have already admitted it isn't. And that's the case of the vitamin water deception.
Or let's look at Lamborghini. Lamborghini's a contradiction to some extent, right? Because they're selling you that it's an Italian-based brand, which it is, named after an Italian man. He went bankrupt and he sold it to Volkswagen. Volkswagen is German, but they give you the perception that it's still owned by Italians. But Germans make that brand. Just a quiet form of contradictions. Now look at Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Haagen-Dazs ice cream was founded in the Bronx. But what does the name sound like? The name is technically Danish, but if you ask anybody, Haagen-Dazs, where do you think that word comes from? Most people, from what I've asked, said German or Spain or just some form of a European country, but it's Danish. They wanted to create the perception of premium valued ice cream because you wouldn't buy ice cream for the same amount if it came from an American. Better yet, the Bronx, the ghettos of the Bronx. So they had to sell the illusion that it comes from somewhere else. That's the contradictions. It's quiet forms of contradicting. In marketing, we have a term called R&D, research and development. But with these guys, they use R&D for replicate and duplicate. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to be wealthy in this world. Example, Nego, who owned A Bathe Ape, all his shit, okay, he knocked off the Air Force One, didn't he? Added the price up and people still buying this shit. He took the concept of the Army fatigue and now the Army fatigue, he put some ape faces in it, sold it for an extra $300, $400. But isn't he replicating and duplicating? Isn't he copying? The reason I consider Bathing Ape a contradiction is because it's a knockoff. At the end of the day, it's a knockoff. You will look at any other brand or some Africans if they sold you some Louis Vuitton or Chanel as a knockoff, but you don't look at him as a knockoff. From Chucks to Air Force Ones, all he does is knock off people. You don't support knockoffs, but how much people have bought Bathing Ape? Bathing Ape at one point was the second largest brand in Japan. And it was one of the biggest brands around the world, but he went bankrupt in 2010 and had to sell the company for $2-3 million. So what does that say? It's not where you start, it's where you finish. But anyway, now look at toothpaste. Toothpaste is based off insecurity. Now, the facts of the matter is toothpaste don't work. I know all you guys are just like me when you brush your teeth. And then when you got the foam whiteness on your teeth, that shit is not jet white. To some degrees, it's yellow, whether you drink or smoke or not. I don't drink and smoke, and my shit, when the foam is on it, is yellow. And I'm saying that to say because even toothpaste is based on lies, contradictions, and insecurities.
In the early 1900s, only 7% of Americans had toothpaste in their homes. After Pepsodent put a few ingredients in its toothpaste, which had absolutely no effect on the cleanliness of teeth, that number had jumped up to 65% in about a decade. What did Pepsodent do? A few months ago, I wanted to meditate for 15 minutes a day. I had all the free time in the world, so I thought I would do it whenever I wanted to. After a few days, I realized I was extremely inconsistent. I couldn't believe my entire day was free and I couldn't find 15 minutes. I started to blame myself for lacking discipline and having low willpower. Luckily, I had just started reading The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Then I started working over 12 hours a day. Even though I was extremely busy, I realized over a month had passed and I hadn't missed a single day of meditation. How did I do it? Both Pepsodent and I use the power of the same concept, the habit loop. The habit loop is comprised of a routine which is preceded by a cue and followed by a reward. Pepsodent put citric acid and other chemicals in its formula which had no effect on the cleanliness of teeth whatsoever. However, what they did produce was the cool tingling sensation on the tongue and gums, which we're so familiar with today. People in America had started to crave that feeling.
And I want to say the moral of all this is that there is nothing wrong with all this because this is Machiavellian intelligence. This is human nature by fault. Human nature is more attracted to fantasy than reality. I don't care what anybody say. That's just what it is. And why is it like this? It's because biologically, human nature is more attracted to pleasure over morals. So if I compare it to food, imagine eating raw spinach, raw yams, raw potatoes in its natural form. Or even if you boiled it just to make it warm so it could digest better. Does it taste better than fast food? Than Popeyes, than Burger King, than a nice restaurant down the street? which one is more attractive? We know healthy food is good for us, but which one is more attractive? Now, even like on a sexual term, fantasy versus reality, it's like I tell dudes all the time, you never find a wife in a hoe and you never find a hoe in a wife. We love fucking hoes, but don't want to claim a hoe, if that makes sense. The reality of it is, if a woman is too sexually experienced, the only way she's gained sexual experience is by having sex with a lot of dudes. But no man wants to date a girl who's had sex with a lot of dudes. There's dudes that feel like 2 men is too much for a woman. 2? You been with 2? Oh, Lord child, you been with 2? Guess that's how you was raised, ho. But the reality of it is the wife, the one that you want to have your kids and things of that nature, she can't have much experience to some degree. So therefore, that makes the sex whack. And I think sometimes that's why men cheat, because of the contradictions of what they want. It's like you want both in one, but it's almost impossible. And women, I know how y'all love to say, I'm both. There's no way you could be both, because the difference between a hoe and a wife when fucking them is that when men get prostitutes, they pay them to leave, not to have sex with them. If I have sex with you and I have to care about you after we have sex with you, guess what? You ain't both. You think you are, but you ain't gonna give someone a blowjob and fuck them and then walk off like it's nothing. But anyway, listen to this clip here to get a better understanding too on why men treat women like shit at times.
But I do think that Killer Mike, I saw him say something about this, about his evolving views on women and how it changed when he had daughters. He said he had to realize a lot of the horrible things he felt about women were really about horrible things that he felt about himself, and that he felt down on himself. Therefore, a woman that could feel good about him must also have something wrong with her. It was almost like, I don't know if he said this, but it seems that like the mentality of it is, if a woman's quality, why in the world would she talk to me? Yeah. So then by definition, any woman that hollers at you
ain't shit
is a problem.
Right.
I mean, you ain't gonna win that way. Like, you'll never be happy that way.
When it comes to women, see how like men will never find a hoe in a wife and a wife in a hoe? Women are the same way. And the only theory I could compare it to is X-Men. If anybody knows the X-Men series, you should watch it to get a better understanding. Jean Grey is the perfect example of a woman's biology. The good guy versus the bad guy. She's married and in love with Cyclops, but she had a deep affection and crush and to some degrees desired Wolverine because of the bad guy syndrome. Stability versus freedom. Women, when they have sex with men, they're looking for resources and stability. That's how they are biologically programmed, because the cost for sex of them is much greater. Now, if you look at Jean Grey, she's with Cyclops because, yes, he's very handsome and stuff. But the reality of it is he comes with stability. Wolverine, the bad guy, comes with no stability. So they always have to pick that battle of which one. And we all know women that have picked the bad guy over the good guy. And in the end, she's like a single mother or something with nothing to show for shit. And that's the natures and the contradictions that a woman might face when it comes to love. Just to bring an example with Machiavellian intelligence and energy. It's in their DNA. So many times when a man is being nice, to some degree, he has some intentions because he's seeking pleasure.
Yeah, bitch.
You know, a man's strength and weakness is his ego, his need to control things. When a man comes on you, he's claiming his territory. I know it sounds crazy, but that's just what it is. So what I'm trying to say is that niceness is a strategy. It is not a feature in a human being.
My overarching recommendation for women is to recognize that it is not a requirement that you be nice. And when people are nice to you, niceness is often a strategy. It's not a feature of a human being, like how tall they are or what color hair they have. It's not just I'm just a nice guy, because I'm not a nice guy in a different context. I'm a nice guy in a particular context. And typically, particularly when you're talking about romantic engagements and the beginning of them, the seduction, the asking you out, etc., of course they're nice. What's the alternative? And so niceness is a strategy, and it is not a feature of a human being. And you can think of the issue that women are discouraged in this culture from saying no in general. And even when they say it, they're not really heard. So in Western culture, when a man says no, it's the end of a discussion. And when a woman says no, it's the beginning of a negotiation.
Speaking on insecurities again, let's explain TV. Like, one of the reasons I stopped doing marketing, because I felt like it was like damn near a sin, because I realized in order for marketing to work, I have to keep people insecure. TV is the greatest example of this, because TV's job is to show you how unhappy you are by showing how happy someone else's life is. They'll hit you with a nice show, My Sweet 16, here's how to win a car, whatever. And then they hit you with the commercial. Maybe she's born with it, or maybe it's Maybelline. As I say, bitch, you can never be born that pretty. You need us to be pretty. You need our lip gloss. You need our Wonder Bras. You need this car. Okay, guys, you won't get women if you don't have this nice car. That's how TV works. That's why TV is dangerous to some degree. It's based on insecurity. How many men and females you know that are liars through false imagery? Whether it's a man wearing a nice watch and chain, or a woman perking her breasts up a certain way, thinking that's going to give her more respect. To some degrees, we're all living through contradictions, insecurities, and placing fear and stupidity amongst others, whether you want to accept it or not. Chapter 2. You need the corny shit to make the hot shit hot. Speaking of hoes and wives, it's always best to have options. Human beings love options. Customers want to know you have customers. Everybody wants what everybody wants, and nobody wants what nobody wants. What's more appealing? A restaurant with no line, or a restaurant with a line far out as the eyes can see? When you look at the restaurant with no line, you go, if this place was really good, to have a line outside the door like that restaurant. You need some form of power or credentials. You need some form of a high point versus a cheaper point. It can make the cheaper one seem like a really good one. You need the corny shit to make the hot shit hot. Case example, look at Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan has the retro sneakers, right? With the retro sneakers, the marketing here is that those things keep the brand cool. Within marketing, there's A, B, and C markets. A markets is Miami, New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, all the major points of America. The B markets is anywhere around those markets. So New Jersey, Philadelphia, because they're close to New York. Austin, Texas, because it's close to Houston. Dallas, Texas is a B market. And then the C market is anything in the middle. You know, all the places that nobody really talks about when visiting America. So when it comes to marketing, Michael Jordan's focus retros in the A markets, the major cities of America. So that way the B and C markets go, I want to be like that. I got to get that to become that. Now in their markets, they sell them the corny shit, because that is what makes Jordan money. At the end of the day, Jordan is a full brand, sweatpants, hoodies, all that. If you are in LA, Chicago, and all that, you tell me how many times you see people in the regular corny shit. You know how much shoes Jordan makes? And the only people you see in the boring shit is the aunts, your uncles, maybe your grandparents. In no disrespectful way, they're corny. And everybody can't be Jay-Z. But that's how marketing works. You need the corny shit to make the hot shit hot, because everybody needs something to compare shit to. Now, Nestle owns Poland Spring Water, but they also own San Pellegrino. So that's how it works. You got regular water for the everyday person, and you got a higher end market of water for somebody who's rich and want to be fancy with their water and want it in more of a glass bottle than a plastic container. Then you got Coca-Cola. They own Dasani. They also own Sprite. Pepsi owns Mist to compete with Sprite. They all go with their back and forths with branding each other, high point versus cheap point, and making the corny shit hot by making the hot shit corny. But understand something, the best thing that happened to Coca-Cola was Pepsi. The best thing that happened to McDonald's was Burger King. The best thing that happened to Minute Maid was Simply's Lemonade. Both of them owned by Coca-Cola, if you guys didn't know that. The best thing that happened to Vitamin Water was Powerade. The best thing that happened to NSYNC was the Backstreet Boys. Visa card versus MasterCard. Energizer versus Duracell. Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. Domino's Pizza versus Pizza Hut versus Papa John's. Yeah. Toyota versus Honda. Silent Hill versus Resident Evil. Carvel's versus Cold Stone. Rite Aid versus Dwayne Reed. CVS versus Walgreens. General Mills Tricks versus General Mills Kicks. DC versus Marvel Comics. At the end of the day, most of them are all the same thing. Most of them are owned all by the same companies. And you need that competition. It's good to have competition. It's good to create this battle so people can pick and choose. Like, let's look at like the true ignorance of bikinis, right? What is the difference between bikinis and trunks versus boxers and underwears? It's really the same shit, except one has a certain material to it where you could wear in the water. But isn't that an illusion? That's all an illusion compared to how you look at it, in my opinion. Even like if you look at the concept of like implants, butt implants, titty implants. Now you're getting your lips done, your nose done. Can you imagine talking to your grandparents and them saying, yo, they would have never thought that you'd see a day where like you could be born this way and then you could just wake up tomorrow and go, well, I'm going to turn myself to a girl. I'm going to cut my dick off, make a vagina, start having my period. And it's like, it's crazy the world we live in. I'm just showing you how people manipulate things. Let's look at computers, right? Apple versus PC.
Hello, I'm a PC. And I've been made into a stereotype.
I'm a PC, and I'm not what you call hip.
I'm a PC, and I wear glasses.
I wear glasses.
Hey, I wear glasses.
I wear jeans, and I study jeans.
And I design jeans.
And I design green buildings.
I'm a PC, and I study the law.
And I practice the law. And I challenge the law.
I'm a PC, and I blog for Obama. And I broadcast for McCain.
And I have a beard.
I'm a PC and I have 3 rings.
I'm a PC and I have 1 ring.
I turn number 2 into energy.
I'm a PC and I want to protect these.
I'm a PC and I'm connected to more than 1 billion others worldwide.
Roger that, Houston. I'm a PC.
And my name is Roger. I'm a PC.
I'm a PC. I'm a PC.
Yeah, I'm a PC too.
I'm a PC and a human being. Not a human doing, not a human thinking, a human being.
I'm a PC and I sell fish.
After listening to that commercial, I hope you understand why Bill Gates is one of the wealthiest men to ever live. Bill Gates is focused on the everyday person versus Apple, who is focused on the more elite. What is PC? I could be any human being on this earth, and I'm a personal computer too. A teacher, a fireman, garbage man, a mailman, because at the end of the day, that is the majority of the world. Everybody's not Frank Sinatra. Everybody's not President Barack Obama. Everybody's not Brad Pitt, Jay-Z, you know what I mean? But Apple is appealing to them too. Apple's $1 billion company, but that's how they create their you need the corny shit to make the hot shit hot theory. Apple is hotter than a PC when you walk in a room with one. That's all I'm saying. I want you to listen to Steve Jobs with this market employee and how he spoke about marketing back in the day.
To me, marketing's about values. This is a very complicated world. It's a very noisy world. And we're not going to get a chance to get people to remember much about us. No company is. And so we have to be really clear on what we want them to know about us. Now, Apple, fortunately, is one of the 6 best brands in the whole world. Right up there with Nike, Disney, Coke, Sony. It is one of the greats of the greats, not just in this country, but all around the globe. But even a great brand needs investment and caring if it's going to retain its relevance and vitality. And the Apple brand has clearly suffered from neglect in this area in the last few years. And we need to bring it back. Our customers want to know who is Apple and what is it that we stand for. Where do we fit in this world? And what we're about isn't making boxes for people to get their jobs done, although we do that well. We do that better than almost anybody in some cases. But Apple's about something more than that. Apple, at the core, its core value is that we believe that people with passion can change the world for the better. That's what we believe. We wanted to find a way to communicate this. And what we have is something that I'm very moved by. It honors those people who have changed the world. Some of them are living, some of them are not. But the ones that aren't, as you'll see, you know that if they ever used a computer, it would have been a Mac.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Apple products are more empowering. Apple makes products more for the creative and productive. It's crazy how if you bring up the word Apple, majority of people think of the brand before the apple. And the apple's been here since the beginning of time, the actual fruit. Apple is based on a strong reputation. And sometimes you got to ask yourself what reputation you want. I believe that as a human species, 3 things make us who we are. Our parents, the pain we're running from, and our race. And our race, a lot of the time, is based on reputation and perception. That race gives itself. So if you look at Japan, when Sony was created, their goal was to make Japan hot, not Sony. Because they said, as long as we keep our country strong and known as a place of hard work and dedication and values, and more importantly, great product, that's all people will see when they see made from Japan. And now that's how we got Honda, we got Casio, we got so much brands that come from Japan, Hello Kitty, and do well. Like unlike other situations, most Japan brands start off running when they, crawl, walk, run. They start off running in America because of that. Look at Italians, right? From cars to clothes. There's a reason why everything with them is premium value, because the reputation of Italians is strong and they make sure they keep it that way. They'll say Italian alligator shoes when there ain't no alligators in fucking Italy, because there ain't no alligators ever in the cold. They stole those alligators from Africa, okay? Just to make a point. But they're going to take credit and say, this is Italian gator shoes. Look at the marketing of a hoodie, right? Let's talk about why Trayvon Martin got shot. Because what's the marketing of a hoodie?
Let's talk about the Trayvon Martin case and what's going on in Florida.
Well, I have a different take, Brian, on that. I believe that George Zimmerman, the overzealous neighborhood watch captain, should be investigated to the fullest extent of the law, and if he is criminally liable, he should be prosecuted. But I am urging the parents of Black and Latino youngsters particularly to not let their children go out wearing hoodies. I think the hoodie is as much responsible for Trayvon Martin's death as George Zimmerman was.
What do you mean?
When you see a kid walking, Juliet, when you see a kid walking down the street, particularly a dark-skinned kid like my son Cruz, who I constantly yelled at when he was going out wearing a damn hoodie or those pants around his ankles, take that hood off. People look at you and what's the instant identification? What's the instant association? It's those crime scene surveillance tapes. Every time you see someone sticking up a 7-Eleven, the kid's wearing a hoodie. Every time you see a mugging on a surveillance camera or they get the old lady in the alcove, it's a kid wearing a hoodie. You have to recognize that this whole stylizing yourself as a gangster, you're going to be a gangster wannabe, well, people are going to perceive you as a menace. That's what happens. It is an instant reflexive action. Rarely ever, as far as on TV, shown in a I'm cold type way. It's more shown in a I'm about to rob you type way. Rappers and things of that nature, even in movies. So if you're wearing a hoodie, how can you get mad at the perception somebody gives you for it when this is what our culture kind of puts out there to some degree? Marketing and perception and reputation plays a huge role if you want to sell things at a premium rate versus a cheaper rate. Okay, so more important, it has to do with perspective. So look at soda. A 2-liter, if you go to a supermarket, right, a 2-liter costs $1. But when you go to the register to pay for all your groceries, there's a 20 ounce in that fridge for $1.50. Just to show you how much that doesn't make sense. But if I put this world around you in this natural habitat and then you start believing that this makes logical sense, that's just the perspective they have. And then they'll make an illusion like it's like you're really saving money if you buy 2 big sodas for $3 versus 2 20 ounces for $3. You're really being raped. I want you to hear this clip of the 15 biggest ripoffs that you're still paying for.
just to get my point of view. Listen here.
From books marked up to well over their physical value to expensive food you buy simply because you're too lazy to walk down the street, we count 15 money sinks found every day consuming pieces of your wallet for no reason. Number 15. All-you-can-eat buffets. A lot of people will contest this is not a ripoff, that they do very much enjoy the luxury of being able to eat as much as they want. But here's a reality check. You're paying for that peace of mind, not the actual food, which, unless you've been starving yourself out in the open sea for over a month, you're generally gonna consume about a standard restaurant dish, maybe a little bit more. But now you're paying twice or 3 times as much for basically the same amount of food. Now bear in mind, this is just an average statistic, and of course there'll be exceptions from time to time, but most people waste their money on this instead of just buying a standard meal and maybe getting a big dessert. Number 14. School textbooks. This mostly applies to high school and above, an issue becoming less dire with each passing year. Textbooks required for class with more than a 500% markup of price. If you don't buy the book, you're going to fail the class, and you can't use the previous year's edition because it's now out of date. Even used books have one-time use access codes that render them crippled at the end of the semester. This daylight robbery has not gone unnoticed by governments, a lot of them making the transition to ebooks and internet-based information to save families on unnecessary costs. Number 13. The funeral. This is one nobody likes to talk about, but it's very important that you do since funeral bills cause heart attacks all on their own. The average funeral cost can range from anywhere between $5,000 to $15,000 simply for a hole to put them in, a granite plaque, and a quick limousine ride for your family. A lot of the things you pay for you can actually do yourself, like have a charity collection for flowers, organize your own carpool, have the memorial at home instead. You'll save thousands. Number 12. Budget flights. You might look at something like EasyJet or Jetstar if you need to get overseas, but you can't afford the hefty costs involved. But it's not as cheap as you think. When you factor in the extra costs, luggage processing fees, prepaid food, credit card percentage fees, it slowly climbs back up to proper airline prices. Of course, most budget airlines aren't so bad in terms of service, but you will get what you paid for. Number 11. Premium petrol. A common misconception that putting this higher quality fuel in your car will clean out the engine and make it run better. In reality, certain parts in your car may or may not need them for mechanical reasons, and if so, then it will be clearly labeled next to your fuel cap as well as inside your owner's manual. If you don't have these parts, then there is absolutely no point putting premium fuel in your car. You are just pouring money down the drain for no reason whatsoever. Number 10. Printer ink. One of the biggest scams out there to present a dirt cheap printer and then mark up all the additional parts to crazy high prices. The amount of ink you buy from one cartridge is over 2,000 times cheaper than the same quantity of petrol for your car. This is the only way printer manufacturers can recoup their losses, and it's the same with video game consoles. Cheap until you factor in all the game and DLC costs. But even worse is that the amount of ink you get in a cartridge has been slowly decreasing every year, giving you less value for more dollar. Number 9. Branded medicine. If you've been to a pharmacy for some prescription pills, you'll likely have been given the offer between the known popular brand and the generic chemist one. A lot of people will get the known brand simply to be safe, but like with premium petrol, it's all baloney. Pharmacies are legally obliged to use exactly the same chemical composition in both of these bottles. You think about it. Can you imagine if your local chemist offered you a dodgy, barely working piece of medication at dirt cheap price and then get away with it? The backlash would be unbelievable. So you should always go with the cheaper choice. You're getting the exact same product just without the label. Number 8. Supermarket deals. You'll find these promotions all the time. Buy 2 of the thing you want for a slightly discounted price. But the reality is you're paying extra for barely any reason. It's a psychological ploy to squeeze a bit of extra cash from your wallet. But even worse is when supermarkets bump up the price just before the promotion, meaning you almost pay full price for 2 regardless. If you see one of these deals, think long and hard about whether you really need and could use two of the thing you're buying, or if you're throwing money out the window simply for the illusion of a bargain. Number 7, a gym membership. A lot of people waste their money on these thinking they'll be economically motivated to work out because they blew hundreds of dollars on a year-long membership. Sadly, most don't use their membership anywhere near frequently enough to justify the cost, and others just don't go at all. In some contracts, the gym will actually prevent you from canceling your membership even if you lose your job or you're given military orders to leave the town. Consider working out in your own home using basic equipment every day for an entire year before you join one of these money sinks. Number 6. Bottled water. The big marketing campaign was always to present you with the image of a cool, clear mountain stream, small villagers collecting and bottling it for your consumption on store shelves. In reality, you're paying over $3 for expensive tap water from a source you're gonna never know about, possibly a big tap in some factory 3 streets over, maybe run through filters if you're lucky. The difference is, tap water is damn near free. You can also check information on your local water supply online easily, how it's treated, violations that might have occurred, and so forth. Bottled water might have been urine recycled several times, and if so, you are never going to find out. Number 5, extended warranty. So you've bought a big piece of furniture or a big hefty appliance and you want to make damn sure your investment hasn't gone to waste. So you take on the extended warranty, usually 5 years. Of course, more often than not, you're going to be paying a premium for this service guarantee, perhaps as much as a typical repair would cost. So to sum up, you're insuring your purchase for a repair over a period where you almost certainly won't have any operating issues anyway, when you could, wait until it breaks and call a repairman for the same price. Number 4, a hotel minibar. They already know, man. The hotel owners know you're gonna rock up to your room exhausted from a hard day's work or travel, so they stock the fridge and bar with all kinds of nonsense. The markup is one of the biggest rip-offs found on earth. Over 1,000% just so you can have your Mars bar at 1 a.m. And people fall into that trap all the time. It's really easy to bypass though. Just anticipate your midnight cravings and visit a convenience store or supermarket ahead of time. Stock up on inexpensive calorie-ridden sweets for an all-night buffet. Number 3, movie popcorn. These two words go hand in hand since the dawn of cinema. So tightly fused that nobody would dare speak up against it. Like bacon and eggs for breakfast, it's just a part of culture. Of course, you don't want to be that one idiot who refuses to shell out $15 for a tub of popcorn for your family, and even though it costs pennies to produce, you're still buying a product marked up by 1,000%. The reason? According to industry analysts, theaters barely make anything from ticket sales alone, so they need to rely on popcorn and candy sales. Number 2, razor blades. And here we have the most often stolen item in any supermarket, the hilariously overpriced razor blade. You know something is wrong when, like printers, the main unit is sold dirt cheap, and you look over to the accessory section only to get a nosebleed and burst eye vessels. Popcorn and hotel snacks might be marked up by 1,000%, but razor blades approach 5 times that number for a blade on a strip used to cut facial hair, an essential tool if you plan to work at any job ever. Rumors suggest all razor companies conspire to keep the prices high, and they've always been that way. Number 1, the lottery ticket, generally referred to as the idiot tax, an alternative to cutting your dollar notes into little pieces by instead handing it over a desk for a slip of paper worth nothing. The chances of you actually winning the lottery are so low, so minute, that you literally have a better chance of getting killed on your way to buy the ticket than you do to actually win the jackpot. Of course, for some people, it's all about the possibility of winning. It gives them hope every week. And even though you and I know it's a waste of time, for a lot of others, it means everything. And I'm all right with that.
That's pretty interesting, right? That was a YouTube video by Danger Dolan. You guys should definitely go on his page and follow him and subscribe to him. He has some great lists. Now, a question you need to ask yourself. Do you broaden and expand the line in order to increase revenue? Or the short term, do you narrow the brand's focus and keep things moving for a better future? Moral of this chapter is this. You need competition, but more important for leverage sake, You need to contract your brand, not expand your brand. So let's look at Toys R Us, right? Started with a guy selling toys and kids furniture in a store called Children's Supermarket. But then he wanted to grow and expand the business. So he focused his attention on just toys. Good things happen when you contract your brand instead of expand your brand. And Toys R Us, Best Buy, Home Depot, Costco's are living proof of that. So 1, you want to narrow your focus. 2, you want to stock in depth. 3, you want to buy cheap. 4, you want to sell cheap. And 5, you want to dominate the category. That's the only goal. It will help you become extremely powerful, and in order to dominate, you must narrow the brand's focus. How do you think Domino's, Papa John's, and Pizza Hut got big with their brands? By expanding the menu or contracting the brand? Good things happen when you narrow the focus. Look at McDonald's. When they expand their menu to Mighty Wings to McRibs, the Arch Deluxe Sandwich, remember that? Did any of those do good? No. Their money is made by contracting the name out and about and over and over and over again. Time to get into chapter 3, create category. I think one of the strongest points of leverage in this world is when you could create your own lane, when you could create your own category. I remember working for this Jewish man, and he said to me, Scott, I'm focused on being Idaho potatoes. Let McDonald's and Lay's potato chips and all them make potatoes fashionable. I just want to be the source. That's it. He said that because he owned a leather distributor. He made $171 million that year off of just leather. I'm not even getting into the other businesses he owned. He owned his own plane and many other things. With that being said, we're going to get into the 5 points of wealth and value. Patents, royalties, licensing, trademarks, and franchising. So let's start with patents. What is a patent? Patent is a legal document that provides protection for an idea. A patent is to protect the actual invention from being copied by others. A patent, however, does not give you the right to do anything. Patent only gives you the right to stop others from using, making, or selling a patent invention. A patent also tells the story of the invention and how it works in detail.
Is there anything proprietary about how you're removing the bone or you're genetically altering cows so they grow up with no ribs?
Actually, it's pigs. Kevin, it's hogs.
Okay, so why couldn't I just do the same thing?
Well, I'm not running, guys. It's not that much.
Don't run from the tough questions.
Okay, I'm not going to run from any questions.
Literally run, don't.
Right here, Kevin, is the patent for the product. And right here is the patent for the process.
Wow.
Can I see the process patent? Here, take them both.
So nobody else can make boneless ribs?
Let me be more specific. No one else can make a fully cooked rib with either one or more bones removed from it.
Wow. How do you get the bones out?
If I tell you that, I gotta kill you.
Kill him.
No, you don't. You got a patent. You got a patent for it, Bubba. You can tell him. Yeah, tell me.
Robert, honestly, there's the patent, then there's the know-how. And what I say to people who are gonna go try and reverse engineer and figure out how to do it, I say, good luck to you, because it took me 20 years to do it.
I gotta tell you something. In the entire history of Shark Tank, I've never seen a patent on a food product ever before.
Thank you, because we worked it.
Behold, the rubber band. But where does it come from? Rubber comes from the sap of several types of trees. It's an elastomer, a large molecule that can be stretched and returned to its original length. And in its natural form, rubber is vulnerable to temperatures. It becomes sticky in hot weather and brittle in the cold. The people of Mesoamerica were probably the first rubber users. They created figurines, balls, axe bindings, and more. Originally, they called it caoutchouc. Rubber didn't take off until Charles Goodyear accidentally discovered vulcanization. Charles found that heating a mixture of rubber, lead oxide, and sulfur made rubber less vulnerable to weather, while still retaining its elasticity. With this breakthrough, the modern rubber industry was born, and in 1845, Stephen Perry gained the first patent for the rubber band. But over 150 years later, it spread around the globe.
So you can patent all types of shit. As you're aware, you see from rubber bands to barbecue ribs, to frozen food in a freezer. There's somebody who has a patent on that, as crazy as it sounds. The top of a wine bottle, Poland Spring bottles are patented. Even if you don't see the wrap on that bottle, you already know what it is, right? And you see why other companies don't ever make bottles similar to each other, because you could patent the bottle. Example, the iTunes store also, they have 127 patents on iTunes, if you didn't know. 127. It's damn near nowhere around iTunes. So, you wonder why Universal, Sony, BMI, all these music industry companies, why they don't have their own version of like an iTunes store. Why don't you sell on Def Jam's web store or something? Because they can't. Because iTunes has a patent on that whole market. Just to bring an example. You might think that this is crazy, but even the seeds of oranges, bananas, fruits, spinach, all that has patents on it.
How and why did the thought of genetically altering our food even start in the first place?
One of the main reasons that genetic engineering has come about is that Monsanto had their Roundup patent running out in the year 2000.
Okay.
And so they created Roundup-ready crops for farmers. So when they buy the seeds, they sign a contract that they'll buy Monsanto's version of Roundup. And that extended in a kind of way their patent on their most popular herbicide in the world. The theory is that it's a more precise, or their PR theory is that it's a more precise method of what we're doing every day when we cross species. Genes from the mother and the father cross into the offspring and mix and match and create new combinations. Here you take a gene from one species and force it into the DNA of another species, so they call that more precise. But what's actually happening is you're taking genes from species, from kingdoms that have never existed in the other kingdom. The process of insertion plus cloning, which is how they create the plant, causes massive collateral damage in the DNA. So there could be hundreds or thousands of mutations in the DNA as a result of the process of genetic engineering, and most of the problems associated with that are dismissed. They're not even evaluated. So there's new allergens, possibly new toxins and anti-nutrients in the GM crops that we don't even know about, until perhaps some independent scientist does research afterwards and discovers, oh, Monsanto's corn has a new allergen. Monsanto's soy, when cooked, has up to 7 times the amount of an existing allergen. These are disregarded.
You could damn near put a patent on everything except air, for the most part. Somebody probably got a patent on that. Lego's got 600 patents on that one little Lego piece. Well, I guess all the Lego pieces together, Legos have 600 patents. It's crazy as it sounds. Also, if you don't know, one of the 8 black billionaires today has a patent on cement. We walk on his product every day. When we're in buildings, we're in his product every day. And I want you to listen here.
He's been called the golden child of Nigerian business, and Aliko Dangote certainly stands apart from the crowd. Here in Nigeria, when it comes to the manufacturing and trading of commodities, Dangote is a titan. He's one of the richest men on the continent. Whether it's flour, sugar, pasta or clothing, the Dangote Group is a dominant player. But it's in cement that he is king. We're heading to his cement factory in Obajana and making the journey on one of his 2 private planes.
When was the last time you traveled commercial?
No, sometimes I travel commercial. I can't remember, but I think sometimes.
The 2010 Forbes list of the world's richest puts the 53-year-old Dangote's wealth at around $2.5 billion.
So a patent can be anything invented. A remote control is a patent, but then you might want to get a trademark and protect the brand name of the remote. And that's 2 separate things. So speaking of trademarks, now let's define what a trademark is. What is a trademark? A trademark is usually a name, slogan, or logo and represents a brand of products and services. Naturally, you guys are all aware of Nike, in which the name itself is a trademark. The logo, the swoosh, is also a trademark, and the tagline, "Just Do It," is a trademark itself. The Google logo is a trademark. McDonald's, the arches in specific is the trademark. The Big Mac is a trademark. The name, Coca-Cola style letters, is a trademark. The Wu-Tang logo is a trademark. The brown on the UPS truck is a trademark. That color brown, as crazy as it sounds. Even buildings can be trademarks, if you didn't know. The University of Texas Tower, the Chrysler Building in New York, those are trademarks. Also, if you didn't know, you can make sound trademarks. Listen to this. Can you tell me what this sound is? Now, what sound is this?
Wee-hee! Let's go! Woohoo! Mamma mia!
Tell me what company and sound is this from? That was Intel. Now, what sound is this? That was Looney Tunes, right? All those little sounds are trademarked by Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes. Now, what sound is this? That's Pac-Man, baby. Now, what sound is this? That was Rupert Murdoch's 20th Century Fox trademark sound. Now, what movie is this sound from? That was the Halloween movie. Now, last sound. What sound is this from? That one is called The Presence of the Killer from Friday the 13th. Those little sounds that I know you guys knew what they were. That's the reason why you have to trademark certain stuff. But even little things like that triggers emotion. And you should definitely be aware, maybe when you're making stuff and you're making brands, or even you as a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a cousin, what do you do that are trademarks to your character that when people see, they think of you automatically, whether it's gum, it's tea, it's certain headphones, it's a certain color. Like everybody knows, one of my favorite colors is red and black. You know, I wear a lot of red hats. I don't really wear nothing else. The main goal of doing a trademark is to leave a stain on the person's brain. So in plain English, a trademark is anything that is used to indicate to consumers where a product or service comes from. Apple's iTunes, iPad, iPhone. The prefix of the I in front of a word is a trademark. McNuggets. The Mick in front of a word is considered a trademark because you already know where Mick comes from, McDonald's. The Energizer Bunny in the commercials and also that sound is a trademark and copyright due to the expression of the commercial. And talking about copyrights real quick, what is a copyright? Copyright represents the expression of an idea. The good thing about copyrights is it's free. You do not need to really register a copyright because it exists the moment you create something, to be honest with you. So just like Facebook, you remember when the twins sued Mark Zuckerberg, even though let's say there was no proof that they created Facebook, that situation is just a perfect example. They didn't have that copywritten or whatever, but they was able to sue him and get the money out of him because I guess they had proof that they've been talking to him about it for some time, and there was proof that he did steal the idea to some degree. Now let's look at a brand licensing.
What is brand licensing? Well, let me just share with you that brand licensing is a little-known technique used in the industry today to help companies extend their brands into new categories. Before we get into the definition of brand licensing, let me just talk a little bit about the word licensing. Licensing is just another word for borrowing or renting of an intangible asset. So when I talk about intangible assets, I'm talking about things like a song, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, a name, Michael Jordan, a brand, Ritz-Carlton. So that's an intangible asset. And the way that companies today borrow those brands or those intangible assets is through the technique called brand licensing. So the way that's done is through a brand owner, a licensor, who lends or allows a company to borrow their brand. That would be a manufacturer or a service provider. They would be the licensee. And it's done through a licensing agreement. And the agreement basically says, in exchange for certain responsibilities associated with borrowing the brand and applying it to their products, they give the brand owner or licensor a royalty fee. That's the explanation for what is brand licensing.
So let's look at brand licensing. Tony Hawk is a billionaire off of skateboarding, but he licensed his name out to different people, video games, skateboard decks, of course, soda, all types of situations. He just built his name and sold his likeness. Okay, Pokemon. Can you believe that Pokemon, as far as the Nintendo company goes, is the highest earning franchise ever for Nintendo? You would think Mario is, but Pokemon is worth today $40 billion off of franchising and licensing that brand to many different things, from keychains to book bags, Target, you name it. You've seen Pokemon somewhere, everywhere to some degree. So just to show you, like, licensing is a great way to make money too. Walt Disney, which owns Star Wars, Marvel, they have licensing. Calvin Klein, Ralph Lauren, Sean John. Many people might not know this, but after they built the clothing lines to a grand success, they licensed out the brand, and now they don't necessarily make the clothes, and Puffy and Calvin Klein and them don't necessarily design the clothes. They license out the name to different people, especially in different countries. Like Damon John, who's on Shark Tank, FUBU is not popular here, but it still exists in China and many other countries, and it's popular out there. He still makes $100 million off of FUBU annually because of the popularity in other countries and places. So just because he still licensed out the name FUBU. So don't sleep on something, yo. Also, the yellow emoji in the iPhone. Did you know that Jockey owns that image? Jockey Underwear? Jockey International, they own that image. They own that item, and they license it out to the phone companies and t-shirts and to many things. Sports teams, even greater example of how our culture and race gets raped, because if you look at LeBron James, if LeBron James signs for the Miami Heat or whatever for $150 million, you know that that's it, right? But then, yeah, he can make money through Nike and other stuff like that. But that team, the reason why these teams are so profitable is because that team makes money through licensing in many other ways. So it's clothing, they do video games. Like a New Era deal for them is like $90 million off top. You know, like, just to show you how much these sports teams make. And it's funny because South Park even made a joke about this. And I had to record this on my phone because I couldn't get the real audio. So I want you to listen to this closely. It's Eric Cartman walking into an office, and he's talking to somebody who owns a college basketball team. And you're going to hear what he's saying. It's a joke, but it's a lot of truth in this joke. Listen.
A what? Send him in. Cartman. I'm a well-respected owner in the slave trade. In the what? My peaches, what a wonderful office you got yourself, y'all. Certainly got yourself a lucrative business, don't you? Well, let me get right down to it then. Like yourself, I'm also in the slave trade. But at the moment, I find myself in a little quandary with legal issues. Was wondering if you could share some secrets. I have no idea what you're talking about. You have some mighty strong-looking workers here, sir. I'd be willing to offer you $40 for 2 of the white ones and $50 for the blacks. Are you referring to our student athletes? Student athletes? Oh, that is brilliant, sir. Now, when we sell their likeness for video games, how do we get around paying for our student athletes then? Look, there are good reasons why our student athletes cannot be paid, young man. I ain't arguing. If they got paid, then how'd we make all our money, right? We do not own slaves, and we have no desire to own slaves. But of course you own slaves because... right. Of course you don't have desire to own slaves, son. Neither do I. And if there was any government agency listening in on this here conversation, they should know that we're not talking about slave ownership at all. All right, so now how do you get around not paying your slaves? Get out. This is a prestigious university, and I am not saying one more word to you. You think you can do whatever you want just because your corporation is a university?
Remind you of what I said earlier, right? Anyway, Viacom owning Nickelodeon, SpongeBob to Rugrats, all licensing. I Love New York, created by Milton Glaser, who also created New York magazines, licensed the image of his own. So with that being said, there's so much things that you can make big money from. Even like Beats by Dre. I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to licensing, he licensed out the technology of the Beats by Dre sound to Chrysler. Made big money off that deal. I don't know if you know about that. That was definitely like a very silent deal. But all Chryslers now have Beats by Dre in them, thanks to Dr. Dre. Okay? Oracle, the fifth wealthiest man, Larry Wilson, he licensed out that technology to ATM machines. He also licensed it out to credit card machines. So when you go to the supermarket and you swipe your card, most of those cashier type machines are Oracle technology. No different from how Microsoft is in every machine to some degree. Frankenstein, Santa Claus, 007, Marilyn Monroe, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Keith Haring, those are all licensing type of situations now. It's really almost that simple to become successful in this world, by creating something and then figuring out a way to how to expand it and contract it. You know, create category. Licensing deals work like this. It's 3 easy steps. I'm going to do my best to make sure you get it right and understand it. The royalty rate, guaranteed minimum royalty payment, and the payment schedule, also known as the advance payment. Now, a royalty rate is based off of how large the brand is. So that royalty rate will be based off what the licensor will be receiving from the licensee. So let's look at t-shirts, and you want to make a Batman t-shirt. So you hit Warner Brothers up and say, hey, Warner Brothers, and then they go, we charge 10% royalty rate. And you wholesale the t-shirt for $8. So you will be getting paid roughly in royalty payments 80 cents to the brand owner of Batman, which is Warner Brothers. Does that make sense to you? 80 cents on every $8. Your royalty rate is 10%. You will be always getting paid 80 cents on the dollar for t-shirts. Of course, this is a case-by-case thing. Okay? Royalty rates is based on how big the brand is. Like sport companies will probably charge you a lot more. Just an example. Now, a guaranteed minimum royalty payment is when you must pay the licensee owner, whether you sell one product or a million products. There's a set payment he wants, and it's based on every 4 quarters. So every 3 months, he must get this payment no matter what. That's considered in licensing deals. Royalties. Example, what are royalties? Samuel L. Jackson, he does more royalty deals. If you don't know, Samuel L. Jackson is the highest paid actor right now, on the fact that he's big on royalty deals rather than just a check up front for his work. He will go, okay, I'm doing a Star Wars movie. I want royalties on the toys. I want royalties on the soundtrack. I want royalties on whatever deals he make. And royalty deals are very strong. You know, the music world is based off of royalties. You get mechanical royalties every time it gets played on the radio, your song. So if you hear Chris Brown's song, for every minute he gets like 18 cents. And then you add that up times the world. Like from what I know, last time I saw Wyclef, I know like Killing Me Softly was making $80,000 a month for him. And that's just one song. Mind you, he did Maria Maria with Carlos Santana, Whitney Houston. He's done many other hits. Jay-Z makes $750,000 a year off of Big Pimpin' alone from mechanical royalties. I'm not even talking about nothing else, not selling the music, nothing else. Mind you, Jay-Z's biggest hit is Empire State of Mind. So what are those numbers? So I'm saying that to say you also might want to get yourself in some royalty deals because those are the best deals to have. Distribution also carries value. GoDaddy.com, let's say, as an example, that's a distribution. That is a platform. You come to GoDaddy every year. You have to upgrade, and they sell you a .com. TMZ, WorldStar, aren't those the same shit? That's a distribution company. To me, better yet, a platform type company. So basically, you create the content, you give it to me, and I upload it. I give you a look. I get a check elsewhere. You know, if you don't know, WorldStar makes $20,000 a day. About $20 million a year. He only has about 7-8 employees. That's crazy. Now, is WorldStar rocket science? It's a bunch of bullshit up there. But he's making a lot of money. So I'm saying, like, he's in the distribution world, technically, right? The Koch brothers, which is the 5th and 6th wealthiest men in the world today, they also are in the distribution world. You know, they make paper towels, they make plastic plates, they make plastic cups. Live Nation is somewhat in the distribution world because they bought out Ticketmaster, and then they have these strong agreements with all these stadiums around the world. So that's why they could do a deal with Jay-Z and say, we'll pay you $150 million for 10 years. And then we'll set up your shows and set up everything in that nature, because they know he's going to make triple that back, which he already has. And I think he still has like 2 more years left with Live Nation. So the record labels used to have this thing called distribution, but they got lost in the sauce due to the internet, and now iTunes is that form of distribution. So even if you look at something as simple as the grease from McDonald's, I don't remember the name of it, but they get paid just to distribute grease to every McDonald's in the world. Something as simple as that, you don't even realize it's a company within itself, and it's just doing numbers as a set client, 1 or 2 clients, and that's it. And we're then talking about McDonald's. Now let's get into franchising. What is a franchise?
A franchise is, by law, a franchise if it satisfies these 3 things: the usage of name or marks, significant assistance or control, and the charging of a fee. It's important to note that for this federal test, you have to satisfy all 3 of these to have your offering considered a franchise. However, in some states, if you hit just 2 out of the 3, you are in fact considered a franchise. So let's look at these and see what it takes to satisfy each trigger. The first one is the right to use your name or marks. This trigger is pretty straightforward but worth discussing. Basically, you satisfy this trigger if the franchisee's business is substantially associated with your trademarks, service marks, trade names, or other commercial designations. Simply granting someone the authority or right to use your marks is sufficient to satisfy this trigger, regardless of its actual use or how widespread the use is in the business. You satisfy this trigger by offering significant assistance or control. Typically, we see significant control from a franchisor over product mix, territory restrictions, or dictating which customers can be sold to. However, this trigger can be satisfied by business training, management, personnel, inventory controls, or display requirements, even if you put these requirements in place solely to protect your brand. It's important to notice the or in significant assistance or control rather than an and. As an example, if you offered an in-depth operations manual, even if the licensee was not required to follow it, you could still satisfy this trigger. If a licensee writes you a check when they sign an agreement, you obviously satisfy this requirement. Even without an upfront fee, though, you can trigger this. If you charge an ongoing royalty, a mandatory bookkeeping, advertising, or training fee, or if the licensee buys products or supplies from you at prices that are greater than a bona fide wholesale price, you can also satisfy this trigger.
So that's franchising. Also, other ways McDonald's make money is through straws, napkins, little things like that you have to keep going to them to re-up on. Certain things like the signature Big Mac, that's a patented item, right? That's why no matter where you go, it always tastes the same. Dunkin' Donuts has a patent and trademark on certain foods. That's why it tastes the same too, no matter where you go. The job of the franchise after becoming a franchise is to help market and push the brand. So you'll see it on the bus, you'll see it in the bus, you'll see it all over. That's their goal, to keep coming to them, so then the franchisee could keep reading up from the franchisor. So something like Pokemon is damn near all of the above. It's royalties, it's patents, it's trademarks, it's licensing, it's copyright, because of so much things that something like Pokemon is into. They're all over the board. So you can be all over the board. You just have to do it right and strategically write out how you want your brand to be. Chuck E. Cheese is a franchise. Hard Rock Cafe is a casino franchise, a hotel franchise, and the Hall of Fame Awards franchise. So there's franchise all over the board. Okay, so even listen to this new invention made out of ice cream cone pizza from Kono Pizza. Listen to this news clip.
We have a proprietary oven. We have a proprietary cone that makes these pizza cones that are absolutely delicious.
Hence the name Kono Pizza. You license this franchise for all of the United States. You've got a background in edible attractions, meaning the fruit that looks like flowers sometimes. how are you able to use one experience to build this brand?
Sure, absolutely. So franchising is really all about taking a system and a product and how do you replicate it over and over again. So at Kono Pizza, we've been able to simplify the operation for our franchisees so that they can replicate over and over again and deliver our customers a great high-quality pizza product.
Now, is the machine that makes the actual pizza cone into which the ingredients are put, is that machine made in Italy?
It is, and we import the machine from Italy. It's a custom oven for Kono Pizza that makes the cones in about 3 minutes. So we really make sure that customers that want something quick on the go can have whatever they want custom made in just 3 minutes.
And Matt, I understand that you can have something quick on the go from a kiosk, from a cart, and also from an in-line Kono Pizza operation. Tell me about those 3 different business points.
Absolutely. You know, our goal with pizza is to be where the consumers are. We want to make sure that we're wherever they want to be. And that today is malls, airports, stadiums, any colleges, universities, you name it. So we have a kiosk model that fits perfect into a mall. We have a mobile operation that franchisees can take on the road. And we have a small cart that fits on a college, a hospital, a university campus.
Describe some of these Kono Pizza combinations for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because I know you got all 3.
We do. We cover all 3 day parts because, again, customers are on the go always. So at Kono Pizza, we want to make sure that they've got their pizza cones, their breakfast cones. Breakfast cones are filled with eggs, bacon, cheese. Our pizza cones, we've got the classic margarita. We've got a delicious chicken parm and everybody's favorite pepperoni. And then we also have dessert cones with tiramisu and cannoli filling. Amazing.
Matt, this is a concept that was created in Italy. Rosanna Boscolo, this is popular all around the world. Give us an example of the reach of Kono Pizza and how many do you have in the U.S.?
Sure. So right now there's over 140 Kono Pizza locations throughout the entire world. And they go as far as Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Aruba, Canada, and of course now we've recently entered the U.S. We have our first location in the U.S. in Edison, New Jersey, but Kono Pizza is actively awarding franchises all over the country. We're excited to have a couple franchisees opening over the next 4 to 6 weeks in Orlando, in Iowa, and then North Carolina after that.
So, at the end of the day, none of these things will work if you don't build a proper brand. That's first, okay? What worked in the past doesn't necessarily work today. We live in an over-communicated society where each of us gets hit with messages, bombarded with messages. And today's brands are born, not made. How do you generate publicity? I think the best way is by being first. That's why we encourage you to create category. If you're first, then you're considered the leader, which is always considered better. Goodyear was first. Heinz Ketchup was first. Even Red Bull. They're technically a soda company, but they branded it as a new energy drink. And they're the first. They create their own sport teams and they create their own sports genres.
Once upon a time, there was a Thai health drink called Kreting Dang, which means Red Bull in Thai. Along came an Austrian, Dietrich Mateschitz, marketing genius and toothpaste salesman. Kreting Dang contains stimulants like caffeine, taurine, glucose and sugar. So after drinking it as a cure for jet lag, Mateschitz had the idea of selling Kreting Dang in Europe as an energy drink. He made a deal with the Thai manufacturers. They would provide him with the drink with some tweaks, and he would repackage it and sell it in Europe. And they'd split the company 50-50. Red Bull was born. For me, the most amazing thing about Red Bull is the amount of money they spend on getting their name plastered all over high-octane sports. They own a couple of Formula One teams, a NASCAR team, a racetrack, 2 or 3 football teams, a hockey team, an air race. The list goes on.
You know a brand when it owns the category and the mind. When people use your brand generically. Example. Hand me a Q-tip. Make me a Xerox copy. Google it. Hand me the Scotch tape. Pass me a Coke. Even in reference to Pepsi, it's considered a Coke. So, it's no secrets on how to do this. They were the first. Plain and simple. Once again, R&D. Replicate and duplicate. Mercedes-Benz found the code word to use for a prestigious value. Engineered like no other car in the world. Listen to this commercial.
When you buy a car, what are you really buying? A shiny coat of paint? A list of features? What about the strength of the steel, the integrity of its design, or how it responds in extreme situations? The deeper you look, the more you see the real differences, and the more you understand what it means to own a Mercedes-Benz. The C-Class, the engineering of Mercedes-Benz, starting at $33,600.
Now, basically, all Mercedes-Benz is doing is giving you advice to spend more money on the shit they make. It's still shit at the end of the day. You got to understand, when you're not first, it's pretty hard. Just ask Coke with Fruitopia drinks. They built Fruitopia to go against Snapple. Did it work? Fruitopia's out of business because of that. Or Sprite Blue. I think people forgot about Sprite Blue. Sprite Blue was meant to go after Mountain Dew, owned by Pepsi, because Sprite Blue is owned by Coke. Sprite Blue is not here. Neither is Sprite Remix. Pepsi outdid those. Okay? Now, what you need to ask yourself is what percentage of the market your brand can achieve. How large a market your brand can create by narrowing its focus and owning a word and a mind. Because when you are the first, you are considered better because you are the leader, which makes competition lesser than you. The best way to make news is to announce a new category, not a new product. What others say about your brand has way more power than what you say about yourself. Today's brands are built on publicity through word of mouth and are maintained through advertising. Be aware of the law of quality. Quality does not matter. Does a Rolex take better time than a Timex? Or a Casio? Does Always tampons take better blood than a Tampax, which are both owned by P&G, Procter & Gamble? Does Dawn dish detergent clean the dishes better than Joy dish detergent? If you crash in a Ferrari, will you be saved any better if you crash in a Cadillac? Does Payless leather come from a lesser place than Louis Vuitton leather? As far as shoes, building your brand on quality is like building your house on sand. It has nothing to do with your success in the marketplace. If quality translates into sales, the numbers don't seem to show it. Hanes or Gucci, which one you think makes more money? This might sound crazy, but Gucci actually makes more money than Hanes. I thought it was Hanes myself, but they're literally like $100 million from each other as far as what they're worth. Quality doesn't matter. And just to show you, they even got Jordan sponsored by Hanes. So what'd that say? Don't confuse for what makes a brand successful in the short term with what makes a brand successful in the long term. Always remember, choice stimulates demand, and competition is healthy, and may the best man win. Separate brand from company. Procter & Gamble is the company. Dawn, Tide, Huggies, Pampers, Vicks, Gillette is the brands. Viacom is the company. MTV, Nickelodeon, VH1 is the brands. General Motors is a company. Cadillac, Buick is the brands. General Mills is a company. Olive Garden, Red Lobster is a brand. Toyota is a company and brand, but they also make Lexus, just to show you. It's as simple and as difficult as that. Chapter 4, Causality. Within this chapter, I want to give you certain websites to follow and pay attention to. Places where I go to get my resources and mental stability and mental shampoo. TheFatStartup.com, PHAT, TheFatStartup.com, a great site to go to learn about the business, definitely learn about the tech world and how hip hop influences the tech world also. AddictedToSuccess.com, addicted to with a number 2, not a TO, addictedtosuccess.com is also a great site I suggest people go check out. Be Distinctive, free audiobook. That's a dope free audiobook to check out. It's called Be Distinctive. It's on SoundCloud. You should definitely check that book out. Also, would suggest on YouTube, check out Forbes channel, check out Crash Course channel, Gary Vaynerchuk's channel, Elon Musk, like watch some interviews on Elon Musk. I think he's a great person to study. TED Talks, Steve Stout, Eddie Wong, Kevin Plank, who owns Under Armour. He has some great stuff on YouTube. Watch his interviews. Seth Godin, he's an author, also great stuff. Barbara Corona and all the other Shark Tank members. These are things that you need to do to get your mind right and on point. Books to read from my suggestion: The 22 Immutable Laws of Branding. That's an audio book you should buy on iTunes. Still Like an Artist, a print book, Show Your Work, both by Austin Kleon. I like his work. It's very simple, easy to read. Trust Me, I'm Lying, a book based on marketing by Ryan Holiday. All Robert Greene books: The 48 Laws of Power, The Art of War, The Art of Seduction, and The 50th Law, and The Art of Mastery. And also on the free audiobook tip, check out me and Jameson Bennett's work, Think, Cheating is Not a Choice, all on SoundCloud and about to be on Celebrity. Nowhere to Grow But Up series, we got 3 of those, all on SoundCloud. Once again, the Think, Once You Think It, Ink It is on YouTube also, as far as books to read and check out. Now, certain podcasts I think you should check out: The Combat Jack Show, Gary Vaynerchuk's podcast, London Reels podcast, Joe Rogan's podcast, Knowledge from Men's podcast, great podcast, Paige Phillips Show, Ice-T, James Altucher, Altucher. I love that show. Fearless Minds podcast, Rich Man Radio Show by Robert Kiyosaki. You know, he wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. He has a podcast. Joel Osteen. I'm not even religious, but Joel Osteen be motivating me like a mug, man. Vice Media's podcast, The Brilliant Idiots. Shout out to Charlemagne. I love his podcast as well. And the Young Turks podcast. I think those are great podcasts. That's where I get a lot of my knowledge from and how I build in this world. And I think you guys should too. Questions to ask yourself. I think that everybody should get a notebook and a pen, and just like the last book, once you think it, ink it, I-N-K, then ink that, I-N-C. So questions you need to ask yourself is, with everything you do, for the most part, you should always ask yourself, this is what I heard, this is what I think, and this is what I know. Then also make a list of things to do versus things I did. Make an ignore list. Problems and challenge type list. Write down things on ways you could reinvent yourself. You know, if you look at 2 Chainz, he used to be called Titty Boy, and he was down with Disturbing the Peace with Ludacris. Now he's 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz! You know what I mean? Hulk Hogan. If you look at Hulk Hogan, how he came from Hulkamania to now Hulk Hogan is Then he went to NWO with WCW, then became Hollywood Hogan, then became the bad guy, and then he went back to regular Hulk Hogan. So the point is, reinventing yourself always does well. And I think every year you should reinvent yourself. Don't ever stay the same. Game Boy, if you look at Game Boy, they do it, right? Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color, Game Boy DS, Game Boy 3DS. Write down your signatures on what makes you who you are. What are your trademarks about yourself? Body behavior to fashion. You should write down all the signatures that make you who you are, what brands you like, even if when it boils down to toilet tissue, simple stuff like that, you know? Maybe a signature sound. Who knows? You should also write down how you can create levels of income. Example, Where's Waldo, right? Where's Waldo has costumes for Halloween, children's books, children games, and they license out that imagery sometimes. Walt Disney, if you look at their amusement park, here's their levels of income. The amusement park, the entry level, food, photos, and merch. But they have levels of income within that. You have to really map all this stuff out. Get bloggers to write about you, because then once you get bloggers to write about you, then the major media will write about you. So reach out to simple bloggers. Yo, just to paint a picture to you, I got a job in Germany off of a blog I did, off of some young kid's blog. He don't even get a lot of numbers at that time. And some lady saw that, thought I was the coolest thing in the world, reached out to me, and I got a job in Germany because of that. So just to show you, the little bloggers count just as much as the big bloggers. Number 1 rule in marketing is be different, not better. Hertz focuses on airports. Enterprise focuses on suburbs and insurance replacements. That's car rentals. Just to speak on what makes them different, you have to truly know what separates you from the competition, whether in love, family, business. It all relates. You got to be able to define what you do in one sentence. You got to know your SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You need to know your demographic, Because, example, if you're a musician and you're making music, I need to know who your music appeals to. Because if I'm on radio, I have to get certain advertisers in. So I know Chris Brown appeals to young girls 12 to 21, right? If you're 50 Cent, you might appeal to a man 21 to 41. So then I could go to Dove Soap and Domino's Pizza and all these companies, Burger King, and say, listen, when you're looking for this, we have this. When you're looking for that, we have that. At these times, at this slate. So that's why you have to know your demographic is very important, because you have to know how you're selling to them, and people have to know that for how they place you in stores and such natures. And also you need to know selfish goals versus unselfish goals. You know, what's the things you're doing that have nothing to do with money versus the things you are that have to do with money. Pay attention to what's going on and you'll win. My boy Maurice Harre, when Osama bin Laden died, he did something really dope. In a random ass moment, he makes graphic tees. So what he did was, when he saw Osama died, he made a quick mock-up of a graphic tee, put it online on bigcartel.com for like $10. He didn't even think none of it. Did you know that when Osama died, he was the #1 Google person for like the next 2 days? My boy made $120K in 2 days off of Osama bin Laden's death. Google Maurice, Harary, to see what I'm talking about. And speaking of Maurice, ways to make money from home. There's tons of ways to make money from home in today's world. So I'm saying all this to say there's no excuse for you to be broke in this day and age. If you're broke, to a degree, you are lazy, because when you're home, you can be coding. If you don't know Kevin, who created Instagram, he learned how to code when he was off work. So look, years later, he's a billionaire off of Instagram. So learn how to code.
If you look at college graduates in the U.S., a year after they graduate in America, 50% of those students are unemployed or underemployed, meaning they spend $200,000 on an education, for the most part, that doesn't immediately provide a return on investment, or that they didn't really need. So we've always talked about the American dream as being something that, where anyone could move to America, foreseeably send their kids to college, their kids would, do better than they did. And instead what we're doing is graduating generations of people that are $200,000 in debt, move back in with their parents if they're lucky enough to, and struggle for the next 10 years of their lives. And it's not really fair to those people. So what we're trying to do is teach people the skills that they need to find jobs.
As a political science major at Columbia University, Zach Sims had already planted one foot in the door of the tech industry. By the summer of his junior year, he had worked with startups GroupMe and Dropio while expanding his impressive resume in academics. After deciding he had accomplished everything he could have wanted in college, Sims decided to drop out of school 1 year before earning his bachelor's degree. Despite removing himself from the more conventional system, he never stopped his education. Along with his co-founder and former classmate Ryan Babinski, Sims founded Codecademy, which provides free online lessons that teach users the art of computer programming. Since launching in August 2011, over 24 million people have signed up to try one of Codecademy's courses. According to Sims, programming is the key to the future, and Codecademy is trying to lead the way.
So when someone drops out of college, like me, I've done a lot of reading on how to manage the company that I'm building, and what always ends up happening is I read something and it's never really useful until I have a way to experience it and a way to actually go through with what I'm learning. So I think the publishing industry sort of needs to find a way to bring together experience and books to create a new, more cohesive learning experience that people can understand and actually internalize, as opposed to just thinking that learning is cemented when you're in college. I think college is really useful because it gives you kind of an introduction both to fundamental things you should know most of the time, fundamental concepts, but also to really great people, depending on where you go to school. And I think that's one of the major things I got out of school, was the opportunity to interact with and meet really, really awesome people that are still friends.
Where Zach and I really bonded college, it was very clear to us that one of the major challenges to be solved was this growing skills gap, that graduates are not able to jump, or increasingly not able to jump between graduating with a degree and the skills that a company requires to provide a valuable service to the economy.
Everything that we work on in the modern world is in some way dependent on technology, right? And software is sort of eating every different industry, whether it's journalism, which is moving more and more online, or whether it's a field like agriculture, where people are using algorithms to figure out where they should plant their crops, when they should water them, stuff like that. And I think understanding sort of the fundamental underpinnings of all of that comes back to understanding programming and code.
What are we all going to do? Are we all just going to be sitting in like windowless cubicles coding Madden 3000? What will America be producing if we're all coding?
So I think every industry will change based on people understanding programming. So by 2020, there's supposed to be 1 million more jobs than there are people that know how to program in the US. That's kind of a scary fact, I think, for us, right? That a lot of these jobs will end up being transferred to other places if we don't learn the essential skills. But more so, I think it's lagging behind in innovation if we don't learn how to program. You look at countries that are inventing, countries that are creating, and historically they've all had strong math and science programs. And I think this is really a core component of the math and science of the future is really computer science.
We try to reduce the beginning steps of learning how to code to its simplest form in a way that is totally inviting. And what we mean by that is we really just want to focus on the core basic concepts. Once people start to build momentum on those basic concepts, it's easier to then move on to the harder concepts.
The coolest part about knowing how to code is being able to create anything you think about. And I think that's really reflected in what we did with Codecademy. We built something for ourselves and we put it online, and millions of people have used it since then, which sort of never ceases to amaze us.
For me, in the end of the day, again, apart from the design challenge, what makes me wake up in the morning every single day with a smile on my face, knowing that we are changing many people's lives across the world and having a direct impact in their professional careers.
Yeah, I think we're here for 20 or 30 years to build a business that's worth billions of dollars, right? I think we want to build the best vehicle for social change like we're trying to do is a business that has lasting impact on the world, that has lasting revenue, that can sustain itself for decades.
You have to constantly be learning new skill sets. We now all know that we're not going to have one career for our lives, so why have one educational experience for our lives?
Even if you look at something as simple as Hallmark cards, you know how easy it is to get rich off of Hallmark cards, off of poetry at the end of the day, birthday cards and all this type of shit. And then they wholesale it to drugstores and supermarkets. Hallmark is worth $4 billion. So just to paint you the picture. Flowers. Look at something as simple as flowers. Gary Vaynerchuk said how he used to steal flowers from other people's houses and then wrap them up and resell them. It's, you know what I mean? Like, let's be real here. You can make money through podcasting also. If you want to start a company for real cheap, go to LegalZoom.com. They got the best cheap services ever. That's what we did Celebrity.com at on LegalZoom. Y Combinator. Y Combinator is a company that helps, if you're in the tech world, they help you build your app and website up, and they ask for 10% of what they build after that. Royalties. Shout out Jose at theappconnect.com. If you need an app, they can help make you an app. Trust me, they'll work with you. You should reach out to them. They got a Twitter too, the App Connect. Shake App. There's a thing called Shake App. It's an app for legal shit. Shake, SHAKE app. Trust me, you want that. If you can't afford a lawyer, it's a free app that will help you make a contract in like 5 seconds and people sign it on your phone. Shake Legal app. Google that to see what I'm talking about. None of these guys are sponsored by us, so you know. Like I'm really trying to put you on to cheap or free, easy ways to help get what you want going from the ground up. This is free information, man. If you don't run with it, man, that's on you. You gotta understand that nowadays, email is the new hustle. Email is the new hustling system. So you wonder why things are free is because the product is not Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat. The product is you. And they take your information by studying your emails and studying your patterns, and then that's how they make their money off you. So I'm trying to tell people who can't do the same thing. Instagram went for $1 billion in 1 year. Snapchat is worth $19 billion in 4. WhatsApp is worth $19 billion in 6. I want you to understand something, man. This future that we're going into, a lot of jobs as far as physically will be gone. You gotta look at something as simple as the iPhone, right? The iPhone took out about 30 things we used to use separately on a regular. Flashlight, calendar, watch, compass, maps, camera, camcorder, voice recorder, calculator, clock, timer, mail, portable games, a GPS system, radio, record stores, takeout menu if you want to include apps, weather, photo albums, wallet. Seriously, look how much shit that the Apple iPhone took out. That ain't even all of it. I'm just giving you about 20 right there. Even like when you go to like CVS or a supermarket, ShopRite or whatever, they have self-checkout lanes now. They're slowly showing you that they're about to get rid of the register, somebody being there and taking your shit one by one. That old system is dead. Y'all got to really move with the times, The Nook took out a 500-year-old item called the book. PayPal took out Western Union, Look at the logic of this. Speakers get paid more in an hour than teachers get paid in a year. People like Gary Vaynerchuk make about $70,000 an hour. Isn't that crazy? Versus a teacher who could barely make that a year. What is that saying? Too many kids are forced to go to school but aren't forced to learn. People think of education as something they can just finish. You never finish learning. So, one reason I hate school is because of what Steve Wozniak said right here.
I talk to education groups and I tell them, when you start to school, you go to kindergarten. And, first day my kid went to kindergarten, he wanted to kind of look and see what was in the drawers. Oh, they said, no, you can't open the drawers. You can't open any of these drawers. You can only do what everyone else is doing at that time. And it's like they start stunting you. You have an idea. I can do something in the world. You're taught. No. You can only follow this one little labyrinth maze. You have to go on the same track as everyone else. And I've also come up with this whole idea, that's matched what he said, that intelligence in our schools is defined as always having the same answer as everyone else. You go home, you watch the same news show, you come back and talk about current events, you all say the same thing. And not one person says, no, that doesn't make sense to me. Not one person is really taught to think for themselves, or that's called not intelligence. We're taught how to calculate when two canoes will meet on a river. The river's flowing 5 miles an hour. And we should teach kids to raise their hand and say, no, that wouldn't work because you can't predict the water will be exactly 5 miles an hour. There's going to be wind. And, why don't we think about these things, be skeptical a bit. We don't really teach that way. We just teach, come up with the same answer that everyone else would. Well, then you're just 1 in a billion.
But isn't that kind of controversial?
That's like being a follower instead of a leader.
Isn't that kind of controversial, though? Isn't that kind of controversial to do the opposite of what everybody else has done?
Well, I think some schools, like Montessori schools, get around, do some better job at that. But, our whole system of schools is unfortunately very bad because it's based on money. Mm-hmm. And money, especially in a democracy, you got a problem. Schools all are funded by the government. They're all funded by the government. And government has slices of pie that go into different sectors, usually according to how much money there is there or how many votes. Well, the funny thing is, for schools, kids don't get a vote. What that translates to is a family of 5 gets no more say than a family of 2. And the family of 2 doesn't want to spend money on schools. And the family of 5 does. So you've got this controversy where you're constantly outvoted by the masses. You didn't really, the kids don't get counted as a vote in the, determining how much money schools are worth and need. So schools are always going to be short of money. Short of money, it means you have to have a large class and everybody doing the same thing, and you can't have any randomness. Well, and I think randomness and even a little misbehavior is really essential to creative people.
You can't tell me he wasn't speaking science. What I'm trying to do is help you unplug what the system has taught you. It's like the scene in The Matrix.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. When you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress? I was. Look again. Breathe it. This isn't the Matrix.
No. It's another training program designed to teach you one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them.
What are they?
Sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system. That means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone, and they are no one.
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them. Someone. I won't lie to you, Neo. Every single man or woman who has stood their ground, everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed. Why? I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and their speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be.
What are you trying to tell me? That I can dodge bullets?
No, Neo. I'm trying to tell you that when you're ready, you won't have to.
The world is the matrix and the agent is the invisible government. He's right. We have hid and ran from them forever. And where he said that everyone that has fought them has died, he's right. Think about Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, Muammar Gaddafi. Take something as simple as Africa. If Africa said, let's all stop fighting and build world peace, right? Africa would be one of the wealthiest, but do you think that they would want peace out there? So everybody could realize what they have and what they, how valuable their resources is? No, it's divide and conquer. That's how it works. Muammar Gaddafi, and CNN said this one, Muammar Gaddafi was killed simply on the fact that he said in the UN and he said overseas that he wants Africa to build their dollars together as one to destroy the American dollar.
While more speculation has been raised on the reasons for NATO's intervention in Libya. And as RT's Laura Emmett reports, the organization may have been trying to prevent Gaddafi from burying the American buck.
According to some, it's about protecting civilians.
We must not tolerate this regime using military force against its own people.
Others say it's about oil.
The only reason they're interested with Libya is about the oil. You'd think we'd be in Iraq if the major export there was broccoli.
But some are convinced intervention in Libya is all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold, a true sharing of the wealth.
It's one of these things that you have to plan almost in secret, because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were two conferences on this, one in 96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested, and I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
If Gaddafi had an intent to try to reprice his oil or whatever else the country was selling in the global markets and accept something else as a currency, or maybe launch a gold dinar currency, any move such as that would certainly not be welcomed by the power elite today who are responsible for controlling the world's central banks. So yes, that would certainly be something that would cause his immediate dismissal and the need for other reasons to be brought forth for removing him from power.
Why deal with America and Europe when we could do it all ourselves? And Muammar Gaddafi is the 8th wealthiest man to ever live. And they made sure they destroyed him by getting his people to destroy him. He was never a terrorist before then, until he said what he said about the African dollar. So what I'm saying is no different from Morpheus talking to Neo in the movie.
You are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
You got to understand that we're not in a black versus white battle or rich versus poor battle. We're more in a psychological battle. We're in a psychological warfare going on right now between the powers that be versus us, the pimp versus the hoe, the prey versus the predator, the power versus the powerless, which all stems from causality.
Causality. There is no escape from it. We are forever slaves to it. Our only hope, our only peace is to understand it, to understand the why. Why is what separates us from them. You from me. Why is the only real source of power? Without it, you are powerless. You see, there is only one constant, one universal. It is the only real truth. Causality. Action reaction, cause and effect.
Everything begins with choice.
No, wrong. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
So like that clip said from The Matrix 2, find your why and know the difference between the power and the powerless. Trust your intuition. What is intuition? Knowing something without knowing why. Intuition gives you all the information you need. And when you pay attention to intuition, it's true. How does a dog and roach sense fear and risk? I used to live with roaches back in the day, right? When my mom was on welfare. So I remember like when you come in the room and you pop open the light, the roaches will stand still. Then when you get too close to them, you're about to hit them, they start running. How does a roach sense that? He has common sense to know to run, I might die, but how does he even have a concept of death? It's intuition. That's stuff that you're naturally, biologically born with. Okay? And I want you to stop sleeping on yourself and stop sleeping on your natural born gifts.
Talking about the word fine. How you doing? Oh, I'm fine. Oh, really? You are? Dragging around those extra 40 pounds? You're fine? Feeling like roommates with your spouse? And you're fine? You haven't had sex in 4 months? You're fine? Really? I don't think so. But see, here's the deal with saying that you're fine. It's actually genius. Because if you're fine, you don't have to do anything about it. But when you think about this word fine, it just makes me so angry. I mean, here we are at a conference about being alive, and you're going to describe the experience of being alive as fine? What a flimsy and feeble word. If you're crappy, say you're crappy. If you're amazing, say you're amazing. Tell the truth. And this not only goes for the social construct, oh, I don't want to burden you with the fact that I hate my life, or, hey, I'm amazing, but that would make you feel terrible. The bigger issue with fine is that you say it to yourself. That thing that you want, I guarantee you, you've convinced yourself that you're fine not having it. That's why you're not pushing yourself. It's the areas in your life where you've given up, where you've said, oh, I'm fine. My mom's never going to change, so I just can't have that conversation. I'm fine. We got to wait until the kids graduate before we get divorced, so we'll just sleep in separate bedrooms. I'm fine. I lost my job. I can barely pay my bills, but whatever. It's hard to get a job. I look at the brain the exact same way. Only I describe one side of your brain as autopilot and the other side as emergency brake. That's the only 2 speeds you got. Autopilot, emergency brake. And guess which one your brain likes better? Autopilot. You've had the experience where you've driven to work, right? And you get there and you're like, oh my God, I don't remember driving here. You weren't drunk. That was your brain on autopilot. It was functioning just at this level. And the problem with your mind is that anytime you do anything that's different from your normal routine, guess what your brain does? Emergency brake. And it has that reaction for everything. Everything. You walk into the kitchen and you see everybody's left their breakfast dishes for you. And you think for the 100th time, I'm going to kill them. In fact, I'm going to leave them here and I'm going to make them do it. But that's not your normal routine, is it? So your mind goes, emergency brake! And you go right into autopilot. I'll just load it and be pissed and then not have sex. That's what I'm going to do. So when I say force, anything that's a break from your routine is going to require force. And if you think about your life, it's kind of funny because we, are kids and then we become adults and we spend so much time trying to push our life into some sort of stable routine, and then we grow bored of it. You wake up at, the same time every day, you have largely the same breakfast, you drive to work the same way, you show up at work, you look busy, you avoid making calls, you update Facebook, you attend a meeting and doodle the whole time, you go back and update Facebook, you make plans for the evening, you look busy some more, then you drive home the same way, eat largely the same dinner, or, variety of it. You watch the same kind of media, and then you go to bed and do the same thing all over again. No wonder you're bored out of your mind. It's the routine that's killing you. I have this theory about why people get stuck in life. So most of you have probably taken your basic Psych 101 class and you've bumped into Andrew Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Well, your body is kind of cool because you have these basic needs. And your body is wired to send you signals. If you are hungry, if you need food, what do you feel? If you need water, what do you feel? If you need sex, what do you feel? Thank you. I think when you feel stuck or dissatisfied in your life, it's a signal. And it's not a signal that your life is broken. It's a signal that one of your most basic needs are not being met. Your need for exploration. Everything about your life, about your body, grows. Your cells regenerate, your hair, your nails, everything grows for your entire life. And your soul needs exploration and growth. And the only way you'll get it is by forcing yourself to be uncomfortable. Forcing yourself to get outside. Out of your head, thank you. If you're in your head, you're behind enemy lines. That is not God talking, okay? It's not. In fact, if I put a speaker on it and we broadcast what you say to yourself, we would institutionalize you. You would not hang out with people that talk to you the way you talk to yourself. So get out of your head. Your feelings are screwing you. I don't care how you feel. I care about what you want. And if you listen to how you feel when it comes to what you want, you will not get it. Because you will never feel like it. And you need to get outside your comfort zone. It's not about taking risks, it's about getting outside your comfort zone. Those first 3 seconds when you push yourself out of bed, they blow. But once you're up, it's great. Those first 3 seconds when you're sitting here in a studio or a stadium like this and somebody says, get up and come dance, and you think, oh, I should do that. And then you're like, oh. That experience that you had where you had the impulse to do it, and then you didn't do the activation energy required to force yourself, your emergency brake got pulled. I'm sitting right here. I'm not going up with those crazy people. I don't like to dance. Anyway. Well, what happened for me is I came up and I bumped into Rachel, and then we started talking, and next thing you know, she's tweeting. And we're friends, and boom, get outside. That's where the magic is. That's where the 1 in 400 trillion exists. So everything I do, wait, okay, this is the last part, sorry. So one more thing that you can use, I call it the 5-second rule. Your mind can process a facial expression in 33 milliseconds. It can move pretty damn quick. The other thing that it does very quickly is if you have one of those little impulses that are pulling you, if you don't marry it with an action within 5 seconds, you pull the emergency brake and kill the idea. Kill it. If you have the impulse to get up and come dance while the band is playing, if you don't stand up in 5 seconds, you're going to pull the emergency brake. If you have an impulse about you were inspired by somebody's speech today, and you don't do something within 5 seconds, write a note, send yourself a text. Anything physical to marry it with the idea, you will pull the emergency brake and kill the idea. Your problem isn't ideas, your problem is you don't act on them. You kill them. It's not my fault. It's not anybody's fault. You're doing it to yourself. Stop it. I'm counting on you. 1 in 400 trillion. You got stuff to do. And it's not going to happen in your head. So I want you to practice this today. When we go off to party, thank God it's coming soon because I think we all could use a cocktail. I want you to practice the 5-second rule. You see somebody and you think you have that impulse, they look interesting. Walk over there. You were inspired by somebody and you have a request, make it. That's why you're here. Experiment with it, and I think you'll be shocked about what happens. And one more thing, I want you to know that everything that I do, whether it's the radio show or the television show or the book that I wrote or the column, it's for you. And if there is anything that I can do, if I can do anything to make you do the things you don't want to do so you can have what you want, I will do it. But you need to walk over, you need to open your mouth, and you need to make the request. You got it? Good. Go do it.
Study the natural order of things. Like if you look at life, right? The plane was inspired by the bird. The train is inspired by the worm. The drone is inspired by the bee. The TV is inspired by the potato field.
The television. Where did it come from? Meet Philo Farnsworth. Born in Utah in 1906 to a family of sharecroppers. At the age of 14, Farnsworth basically invented television in his head. He realized that electrons could scan images onto a screen one line at a time, the same way he plowed across a potato field. 7 years later, at the age of 21, Farnsworth created the first electronic television system. In 1928, Farnsworth demonstrated this genius invention to the public. He eventually had over 150 patents. Unfortunately, Farnsworth fell into a bitter legal battle with the Radio Corporation of America, or RCA. RCA tried to steal Farnsworth's inventions and discredit him. Legal problems plagued Farnsworth for most of his life, and he never really made any money from his invention.
The revolving door is inspired by a man that didn't like opening the door for females. Listen here.
The revolving door. But where did it come from? Meet Theophilus Van Cannel, born in Pennsylvania in 1841. Theo's past is shrouded in mystery. But one popular legend is that he chafed under the various rules of chivalry from a young age. He particularly disliked holding doors for women. As the story goes, a public spanking at the age of 12 left Theo determined to solve the door-holding dilemma once and for all. Theo patented the storm door structure in 1888. This three-way design used weather stripping to prevent energy loss and ensure a tight fit. An inventor named H. Bachhacker secured a German patent for a similar system several years earlier. But Theo got his foot in the door in America and scored the U.S. patent. When Theo invented the revolving door, he solved several long-standing problems with conventional doors. Because they form a continuous seal, revolving doors are more energy efficient. The design also keeps noises and outside fumes from entering a building. In skyscrapers, revolving doors open and close more easily than conventional doors, which can become difficult to use due to pressure differences. Theo continued to improve the revolving door throughout his life and built several other inventions, including the witching waves, a scooter ride at Coney Island.
The ATM machine was inspired by a man that was late to the bank by 1 minute.
The automated teller machine, or ATM. But where did it come from? Meet John Shepherd Barron, born in India in 1925. Although John was born in India, his parents were Scottish. His father was an engineer and his mother was an Olympic tennis player. He eventually found his way back to Europe, studying at Trinity College and fighting in World War II. By the 1950s, John was working for a printing company that produced banknotes. He usually stopped by the bank on Saturdays to cash checks, but one weekend he was running late and arrived at the bank 1 minute after they closed. John was irritated by the inconvenience. Why couldn't he withdraw cash whenever he wanted? He thought of the vending machines that produced chocolate on demand, and that's when his stuff of genius struck. He would build an automated banking system. He met the manager of Barclays Bank, and over a pink gin, persuaded the manager to commission several of these machines. Today we call these devices ATMs, or automated teller machines. In 1967, John became the first inventor to create the version that caught on with the public. Here's how this machine worked. When customers wanted to take cash from their account, they inserted chemically coded checks and entered a personal identification number, or PIN. Originally, he wanted the PIN to be 6 digits, but his wife Caroline told him that was too long, and as a result, 4-digit PIN numbers have become the world standard. Today, there are more than 1.7 million ATMs across the planet.
The parking meter is inspired by a man who was a writer and missed his appointment to do an article because he was late, because back then there was no parking regulations, so people parked anywhere. So he decided to make something to help fix that frustration. Boom.
It had to be simple to operate. It had to be inexpensive. It had to be hard to break into so that people couldn't steal the money out of it. It also had to be foolproof in that you couldn't use a slug in it instead of a nickel. And it had to operate in all kinds of weather, in the heat of the summer as well as in the cold of the winter.
And that clock would be attached to a timer.
Thusen and McGee did not have time for tinkering, so McGee made a suggestion. Enlist Thusen's engineering students and turn it into a competition to give them an incentive.
He reached in his pocket and pulled out 5 $100 bills and gave them to the engineering professor at Oklahoma State University and said, "Here's the money for the contest. Let's make it happen. Let's make it work."
At the end of the term, the trainee engineers presented their creations.
This will never work.
None of the designs were perfect, but McGee and Thusen chose 3 prototypes that came closest to meeting their criteria. They used these designs as the basis for further improvements to their own device. In the summer of 1933, Thusen and a fellow instructor unveiled a prototype, nicknamed Black Maria, and it worked like a dream. Inserting a coin and turning the knob compressed a spring, which made the coin drop. As the spring released, it also moved a pointer that showed how much time was left. As the spring slowly returned to its original position, the pointer edged back to 0. McGee finally had a machine that worked.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Park-O-Meter.
And he successfully filed for a patent. The parking meter was ready for the streets, but it would take a fight to get it there.
Several lawyers said, "Oh, you can't do that. You cannot charge people to park on a public street that was built by public money. It's double taxation. You can't do that."
But the city council won in court, and in July 1935, people started paying for parking in Oklahoma City. Drivers were not pleased. But the local government generated $60,000 in the first year alone, a bonus during the Depression. And suddenly cities everywhere were installing their own meters.
I don't think there's a city in the world that you can go to that you don't have to feed a parking meter to park. And people around the world can thank Oklahoma City for that privilege.
And Carl McGee. His invention wouldn't win a popularity contest, but at least everyone pays, no matter who they are. And it's a small price when you consider the chaos that came before it.
Now you see he took the credit for the parking meter and didn't even physically really make it. Everything's inspired by something. You know, the X-Men from Marvel Comics, they're inspired by the Civil Rights Movement. If you didn't know that. Malcolm X is Magneto. Professor Xavier is Martin Luther King. Malcolm X, by any means necessary, if somebody put their hands on you, let them know you're not to be fucked with. That's Magneto. Show off your powers. Don't let these human beings tell you who the fuck you are. If they flex on you, flex back. Professor Xavier, Martin Luther King. Hey, man. You don't have to attack people. Peace, 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 peace. Just to show you that that's inspired by something. Wolverine's character is inspired by the zebrafish. You should Google the zebrafish. The zebrafish is one of the few animals that can rehabilitate any part of his body. Ultimate healing. That's where Wolverine gets his body parts from, as far as the studying of that. The Hoover vacuum cleaner was inspired by a man who had allergies, and he was a cleaner, and he had no education, and he made what he did out of a fan in the ceiling and bed sheets, and he created the first vacuum cleaner. He put a patent on it and then sold it to Hoover. There you go. Inspire before you expire. Build more will than skills, and stop tolerating shit for what it is. Make sense of shit. Don't look at things just from the surface. Like in Alaska, it's illegal to wake up a bear, the animal, but it's legal to shoot one. Does that make fucking sense to you? Even look at planes, right? How can a plane get destroyed, but the flight recorder or the black box stay intact? Make sense of that for me. Why can't the plane be made out of the same shit as a flight recorder black box? They make all these fucking diseases, and then, you know, from herpes to cancer and all this other shit, they make all these diseases just to put you in the hospital and profit off of it.
We got AIDS out there. You think they're gonna cure AIDS? No. They can't even cure athletes' foot. They ain't curing AIDS. Shit. They ain't never cured AIDS. They ain't never cured AIDS. Don't even think about that shit. They ain't cured AIDS because ain't no money in the cure. The money's in the medicine. That's how you get paid on the comeback. That's how a drug dealer makes his money on the comeback. That's all the government is, a bunch of motherfucking drug dealers on the comeback. They ain't curing no AIDS. That's all it is. You think they gonna cure AIDS? They're still mad at all the money they lost on polio. Cured AIDS shit. That's like Cadillac making a car that lasts for 50 years. And you know they can do it, but they ain't gonna do nothing that fucking dumb. Shit, they got metal on the space shuttle that could go around the moon and withstand temperatures of up to 20,000 degrees. You mean to tell me you don't think they can make an El Dorado with a fucking bumper don't fall off? They can, but they won't. So what they will do with AIDS is the same thing they do with everything else. They will figure out a way for you to live with it. Cause they don't cure shit, they just patch it up. Get you to the next stop so they can get more of your money. That's right, they ain't gonna cure it. Hopefully, in our lifetime, that's right, you're gonna see somebody go, yo man, you weren't at work yesterday, what's up? Hey, my AIDS is acting up. You know when the weather get like this, my AIDS just pop up. I took some Robitussin, I'm fine now.
Life is a game of chess, and the powers that be play it very well. And once again, I believe 3 things make you who you are: your race, your parents, and the pain you're running from. Because you will never have happiness if you don't have a problem first. And you got to keep track of the hours you work and waste. Chapter 5. The Internet Celebrity, also known as Celebrity, the New Age Lemonade Stand. Okay, so this is where we leave off. With everything I just said, with all the knowledge I gave, and I hope it helps you for the near future. Within the past year, I did my best to come up with a solution to the problems that I see in the world. I could be on Twitter and complain, or I could figure out ways to try to fix the problem. My goal in life is to create a vertical versus horizontal authority, to create more farmers and not hunters. Because these people are taking over our culture, also known as the culture vultures. We got to stop them by any means. So I believe in putting the power back in the hands of the people and us having authority and taking control of things. So what we have done is we created an app called Celebrity. It's the Internet Celebrity. And the goal is to help you get residual income. Every time your music, your podcast, your audiobook gets played, you will get paid. That's it. We do not own your publishing. We do not own you, especially within the music industry. For us to stop relying on these record labels, to stop relying on the publishers, to stop relying on radio, because you don't need any of them. I'm going to help do my best to bring culture back, and we're going to do it through this free app that will, more importantly, create free music for the future. So iTunes, watch out, because we're coming for you. And my goal is to convince every artist out here is that why settle for $1.29 when iTunes instantly off top takes 30 cents, then you got to split that between the record label and all these things, when you could put your music up here and every time it gets played, you get paid. It's really that simple. And we're doing the paying. And we're making an even distribution amongst what we make with all the people that upload their content on here. Because if you don't know, YouTube is about to start working with indie artists because they just did a deal with the major labels. And SoundCloud is about to start charging the consumer. So not only do they charge the user to upload, but the consumer to now take in the content. And we are fighting those companies, those culture vultures. I believe if we move right with this, it will be no different from the way the mafia, the way Charlie Lucky Luciano, Carlos Gambino, Joe Bonono, and Tony Lucchesi and all these mafia leaders did back in the early 1900s, how they ran it. Al Capone, right? They basically for 90 years ran strong until John Gotti destroyed everything by being too loud and proud. But if you look at back in the day, the history of prohibition when alcohol was illegal, the government did that to stop the mafia. And it did help them lose a lot of money at that time, right? Now I'm saying, what if we did that within our hoods, our culture, our environments? What if everybody in the hood said, you know, we're going to stop doing violence. We're going to just chill out. We're going to behave ourselves, conduct ourselves properly, become a stronger community in every way, shape, and form of it, be outstanding examples. Do you know how much companies you put out of business? Do you know the government wouldn't be needed no more? Do you know that police wouldn't be needed no more? Like, we could take out our own garbage, be more responsible with recycling and pollution and things of that nature. And that's all I'm trying to build within the concept of celebrity, because celebrity is starting off as audio, but it will venture out into education. It will venture out to photos. It will venture out to much, much more in due time. You got to understand, man, these culture vultures, all they want to do is take profit and build off your pain. If you look at hip hop and everything, that's all they ever do. The R&D, replicate and duplicate. They steal from us in every way, shape, and form. And then we don't reap the benefits of it. So then somebody like Dave Chappelle, they won't help him fund the Dave Chappelle show because the first 2 seasons he worked on a thin budget. But then as soon as it blew up, then they want to take credit for it. Then they want to start controlling it and give a more quote unquote universal appeal to it, which means add more white people. And that's why he gave back the $50 million. He's like, yo, it ain't worth it. And he hasn't gone through that by himself. Prince, Lauryn Hill, Nas. I mean, we go down a list of our great famous people who went through this shit so much. Kanye West, when he's talking about Lucien Grand, that's a culture vulture who owns Universal. He owns 50% of the music industry.
As powerful as my voice is, Lucien still runs 50% of the music industry.
Let's talk about Nike and Reebok.
You juggle so crazy, but then you get a Nike that could simply say, the Yeezys did good. That was a good job. Let me get you some more so you can start your own line, because obviously people lining up for it. But they'll marginalize you and play you.
Now, what he's saying with the shoes, when I worked at Reebok, that's something they did. Like when we had our retros with the Shack Attacks and things of that nature, they would tell the stores, you can't get this retro shoe if you don't buy 20 other of our bullshit items. Remember I said you need the corny shit to make the hot shit hot. That's how they like hustle the stores. And then the stores have to sit on that inventory so Reebok and them don't lose the money. And Nike did that with Kanye. So I know that argument he's talking about. And he's Kanye fucking West. And he don't have power. And I'm trying to say, we do have power. And it starts with all of us. I don't care a fuck how much money you got, how famous you are, whether you got one Twitter follower, you got 200 Twitter followers. We all are equal and we all can do some justice out here. And we all must take the power back and put it in our hands and stop letting these culture vultures rape us. The Bush family, JP Morgan family, Rockefeller family, the Rothschild family. Just look up all these people, man. The Carlyle Group owned by the Bush family, they are big with war because that company pays for the tanks and the guns. They also bought Beats by Dre. They have an equity share in Beats by Dre. Did you know that? George Bush? Yes, his family, which owns the Carlyle Group. Then there's the Bilderberg Group. These are all culture vultures that we need to go against. We cannot give them more power than us. When you submit, you give somebody more power. And Celebrity, this app, this website, this community is what we are working on building. The music industry is just full of culture vultures also. Like, listen to even Justin Timberlake when he talks about how he got raped.
In the 1990s, boy bands were huge. Remember the 90s, y'all? Producer Lou Pearlman was the mastermind behind some of the most successful groups. The Backstreet Boys, O-Town, and the one that eclipsed them all, NSYNC. Their debut album sold 11 million copies, and Justin thought he had made it until he opened his paycheck.
The next thing you know, we're touring the world.
It's NSYNC!
We started over in Europe, and we started playing these festivals, and things started getting bigger and bigger, and Then we came back to America and had this one television special, and next thing you know, our first album's gone diamond. We were kind of like, what is happening? We all got our first check for like $10,000. And all of us looked at each other and was like, does this make any sense to you? And that was my first lesson in the music business. We decided we wanted to do an audit, which is a funny word between partners in any business involving money. The guy who was funding us at the time, he begrudgingly did the audit, obviously, and it was worse than we thought. And so I'm 17, 18 at the time, and we decided to take him to court. All we really wanted was the name NSYNC. We wanted our name so that we could continue working. We didn't care about anything that we had lost out on with that first album. It was at a time where we were really starting to explode. This was a tough thing to go through because we didn't know if we were we thought, well, we're gonna have to split up. You know, as the facts started to come out, it became blatantly obvious that we were getting screwed. And the judge awarded us our name, and we were able to move on.
Does it help to have your fans here in such huge numbers? How does it make you feel?
The fans definitely always make us feel wonderful, no matter what. It's really about them. It's about getting our music to them, and we said it before. You know, that's what we're gonna do.
Throughout that whole sort of trial period and discovering how much money we were losing, I learned that there's time for friendship and there's time for business. You could say anything, but what is in the fine print is, it's in black and white.
It's not just a black thing. White victims of this shit too, because it's really the powers versus the powerless. But we are all powerful. It's who steps up and who's not scared. More importantly, scared of fear and scared of death, because that's what they try to throw at your face all the time. But we have no reason to fear anything, especially if you're a man or woman of God. You should be the first person to want to die for what you believe in and to create more equality for everybody. The opportunity lives outside of the rules. Nobody has ever made history by following the rules. And what they want to do with all our big celebrities that do stand up, and I get why certain people are scared to talk, is because they shut you up by putting a bullet in your head. But we cannot be scared. Larry Flint, who created Hustler, like I said earlier, he still kept going with his mission, his vision, and his goal. The Nation of Islam still kept going with their mission, vision, and goal. Even somebody as bad as ISIS still keeps going with their mission, vision, and goal. So who are you not to go forward with yours? Listen to this Kanye clip where he says it best. If you say anything, then you lose everything.
Just like Mandela, and forgive me for using grandiose political comparisons, but just as Mandela blew up the buildings and eventually became president, sometimes, contrary to popular opinion, you have to blow up the buildings. You have to make a change. If you could see the emotion in Justin's face when he lost to the Dixie Chicks, and CeeLo was sitting right next to him, broke crazy. I don't know what song, I can't even tell you a song that they won for. And I have nothing against the Dixie Chicks. It was just wrong, though. It was so incorrect. And why do you care about that? Well, you're a musician, so you shouldn't. But Kobe cares if they deduct 12 points that he just put in the basket. What if the Lakers right now just took it away? No, you don't win a championship. No, I know we know you won, but no, come on, man, you know what it is. Be happy you got a car, man. No, that's what they asked us to do. Like going to award shows is like getting dressed up, spending all your life getting dressed up, giving everything you have to your girlfriend and everything. Making sure that she's straight and everything. Now you're putting on your suit. You go do red carpets. You take pictures, and then they open up the curtain, and there your girlfriend is there cheating on you. That's what you got dressed up to see. And then they tell you, come back next year. You get to see it again. If you say anything, then you lose everything. If you say anything, then you lose everything. If you say anything, then you lose everything. So with that, thank you very much.
And then they also did it to Conan O'Brien. They tried to shut him up after they fucking fucked him up the ass, these culture vultures.
The biggest thing people come up and say to me in gas stations and restaurants, I have so many people say this to me. Hey, my partner, you got screwed. And I always tell them, no, I didn't. I didn't get screwed. I'm fine. It didn't work out.
Well, you did get screwed.
You think I got screwed?
Well, I think most people think you got screwed. I mean, Jay Leno thinks you got screwed. Jay Leno thinks he got screwed.
How did he get screwed? Explain that part to me. I'm sorry. Jay's got the Tonight Show. I have a beard and an inflatable bat. And I'm touring city to city. Who can say who won and who lost? I'm laughing because crying would be sad.
Always remember, just like Batman, breaking somebody's spirit is more powerful than breaking their back. And that's what Bane did to Batman in that last Dark Knight movie. And that's what I'm trying to say. Is your fucking spirit broken? Is your spirit broken? Are you rich whether you have money or not? Are you rich whether you have love or not? Because you don't know if you really believe in something until nobody believes in it but you. Not when everybody agrees, but when everybody doesn't agree. Do you still go forward with your idea, with your love for somebody? Whatever it could be. Don't let nobody break your spirit, man. So this is my solution to try to help. And it starts with everybody supporting everybody. And once again, every time you get a click, you get paid. Every time it gets played, you get paid. The solution is no different from what my favorite president said. My favorite nigga, JFK.
I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
So after hearing that, I want you to know that nothing is going to happen overnight. The change that I think we all would like to see is probably going to take 2 generations, but we have to do our best to take that risk. Everything in life takes risks. If you look at the first person to create the parachute, you know how much people died before they created the proper parachute and the proper plane? You got to also, if you don't know this, the tampon killed a lot of females in the beginning of its creation in the 1950s. It wasn't a strong product in the beginning. Procter & Gamble got sued heavy for the tampon, but they fixed it. It takes time. Some people have to die to make a cause go forward. But as long as the cause happens, it's worth it. You know, Fidel Castro, he fought for Cuba to be independent from everything. And that's why he's one of the few leaders still alive today, because he truly fought back. He made it clear, like, I'm not scared of death. So what you gonna do? Come at me. But you gonna give us our equal rights. You're not gonna steal from our culture and our country. You know, you need change in order to grow, and you will change. Malcolm X changed. Ice Cube changed. Remember, he went from NWA, niggas with attitudes, to Are We There Yet? The movie for kids. Ice Cube. So I believe we can fix poverty. I believe we can fix cancer. I believe we can fix STDs. And I believe that we can fix leukemia, diabetes, strokes, and all this other stuff. Because all this stuff is definitely brand new, made by the powers that be to make a profit off of us. It's no different from how the CIA gave the real Rick Ross drugs and then put you in jail for the drugs they give you, and then make a profit off the prison system. They know what they're doing. And I'm trying to tell all of us, start thinking smarter. Don't work hard, think smarter. When I spoke to one of my old bosses who's a Jew, and I asked him what colleges his kid's going to back when I was younger, he looked at me like I disrespected him. Like, my kid's making a resume? No, they don't make resumes. That's for the niggas in the spics to do. We don't do that. We don't work. You do. And, you know, they put us in this position where we always feel like we got something to prove. But, yo, I want you to always remember something, that on the back of a dollar bill is a pyramid. Out of all the ethnicities and races and religions in the world, the American dollar bill has a pyramid on the back. And under it stands for the New World Order. Under it says the New World Order. And the reason they got that pyramid on the back is because they stole that from the original world order, which is us, the people of the sun. And understand that you are strong and you are beautiful. You are born fascinating. It is your job to unlearn how to be boring. This is your boy, Great Scott, the man that always wanted to be greater than his father, Scott. I wanted to break the stereotypes, and I'm asking you guys to help do the same, to help stop putting that poison in your body, alcohol, weed, and things of that nature, cigarettes. Let's help create a better nation, a better culture. Let's get out of this selfish mentality of like me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, and like me on Instagram and all that other stuff. And let's figure out how we can help eradicate diseases, how we can help fix poverty, how we can help stop drug violence, how we can help stop sending our soldiers over to this war to fight somebody else's battle, and then they don't reap the benefits off of it. You look at the veterans from Vietnam and stuff, they come back to America and be poorer than ever and have post-traumatic stress disorder, and America don't even help them. But we need to help each other. We can't be relying on the government. We need to figure out how we can all help each other. So with that being said, I'm going to end it off with this clip from Malcolm X.
Black man in America for the past 400 years has been like a boy in the white man's house, begging the white man for a job, for food, clothing, and shelter. And then after the white man provides him with all of these things, he turns around and has the nerve to get angry at the white man when the white man tries to control his life. How can people, a group of people such as our people, who own no factories, have equal job opportunities competing against a race that owns the factories? The only way the two can have equal job opportunities is if black people have factories as well as white people have factories. And then we can employ whites or we can employ blacks, just like they can employ whites or they can employ blacks. But as long as the factories are in the hands of the whites, the housing is in the hands of the whites, the school system is in the hands of the whites, you have a situation where the blacks are constantly begging the whites, can they use this or can they use that? That's not any kind of equality of opportunity, nor does it lend toward one's dignity. What does a black man look like begging for a cup of coffee in a white restaurant and doesn't have a job to back up to pay for it when he does get the coffee? It's putting the cart before the horse. Instead of the Negro leaders having the black man begging for a chance to dine in white restaurants, the Negro leader should be showing the black man how to do something to strengthen his own economy, to give himself an independent economy, or to provide job opportunities for himself. Not begging for a cup of coffee in a white man's restaurant. Number one, he must have a knowledge of himself, and this gives him confidence in himself. He has been brainwashed by the educational system that exists here in America to the point where he feels he was a savage in the jungle when he was before he was brought here, and this destroys his morale. So the number one thing that has to be done, he has to be retaught, he has to be re-educated and made to know that he's a man like anyone else, and then he can stand on his own 2 feet like others. Then if the black man, the black leadership, who has access to all of this money and has all of these degrees today, can't use his talent and his know-how to set up business opportunities, job opportunities, housing opportunities for the black people, the same as the white leaders have done for white people, then these black leaders need to get off the boat. They're not leading our people toward any kind of independence, but they're using their positions and their education and their talent to exploit our people worse than the slave master did during slavery.
If white immigrants can come to this country 50 years ago with nickels and dimes and no education, and come here and pool their little nickels and dimes and no education, and set up little stores, develop these stores into larger stores, develop this into an industry which creates job opportunities for whites. Since Lincoln was supposed to have freed the black man 100 years ago, and today the black man, according to the government economist, has spending power of $20 billion per year. We feel that with the black man spending $20 billion a year, not setting up any businesses, not creating any industry, not creating any job opportunities for his own kind, he's not in a moral position to point the finger today at the white man and tell the white man that he's discriminating against him for not giving him a job in factories that he himself set up. If the black man has $20 billion, and these so-called Negro leaders are such geniuses that they can integrate white restaurants and integrate white factories and force themselves into that which the white man has set up, they should use this same ingenuity to show the black people how to pool our wealth and set up something of our own. And then we won't have to force our way into it.
We should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You can't open up a black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a run-down community. Why, you run it down yourself when you take your dollar. And you and I are in a double trap, because not only do we lose by taking our money someplace else and spending it, when we try and spend it in our own community, we're trapped because we haven't had sense enough to set up stores and control the businesses of our community. The man who's controlling the stores in our community is a man who doesn't look like we do. He's a man who doesn't even live in the community. So you and I, even when we try and spend our money in the block where we live or the area where we live, we're spending it with a man who, when the sun goes down, takes that basket full of money in another part of the town. So we're trapped, double trapped, triple trapped. Anywhere we go, we find that we're trapped. And every kind of solution that someone comes up with right in the community where we live. So our people not only have to be re-educated to the importance of supporting black business, but the black man himself has to be made aware of the importance of going into business. And once you and I go into business, we own and operate at least the businesses in our community. What we will be doing is developing a situation wherein we will actually be able to create employment for the people in the community. And once you can create some employment in the community where you live, it will eliminate the necessity of you and me having to act ignorantly and disgracefully boycotting and picketing some cracker someplace else trying to beg him for a job. Anytime you have to rely upon your enemy for a job, you're in bad shape.
Peace and love from the gray skies above. Shout out to Jameson Bennett, Jamestown 502 on Twitter. He's the reason that you guys are listening to this thing today. Properly edit. Peace and love. We out. Celebrity, April 1st, 2015. Be there.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Now, I am well aware of what I'm setting in motion by what I'm saying up here tonight. I'm well aware. But I have never said or done anything in my life that I wasn't prepared to suffer the consequences for.